All right. Welcome everybody to the live on today, Cinco de Mayo. Happy Cinco de Mayo. hmm We are getting ready for our live today. We thank everybody for being here. When you get here, for those who are watching this later on, um, gonna get into the subject conversation here. It's kind of open-ended conversations here today of different aspects of the Torah and whether or not these things happen. Because as I've always said, if the parts of the if Genesis of the beginning of the Bible, get closer to this microphone, if the beginning of the Bible doesn't work, it's invalid, then the rest of the story falls apart. Uh, doesn't matter if you believe in Jesus or not. Jesus cannot be a Messiah if Genesis, uh, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, if none of those things are actually ever happen, Judges, none of those things ever happen, then of course the Jesus story falls apart. So in order for someone, if people actually, knew, a lot of Christians, which is what we deconstructed from, which I deconstructed from, for a lot of Christians don't read the Old Testament. They like to take on the idea that since Jesus supposedly fulfilled these promises, hello, hey, Akush, since Jesus supposedly fulfilled the Bible, fulfilled the messianic mission, which he did not, then Jesus is they don't have to pay attention to the law, to the Old Testament. So many Christians don't read the Old Testament. Yeah, I had a lot of business things happening, so I wasn't doing lives for about a month or so. So now we're back doing lives. The lives are not going to be scheduled as I normally would like to schedule them, because the different things I'm doing in business right now, they can happen at any time. So lives are just going to be during the week when I can do them. So today's like, in the past I would do a live at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, but today I couldn't even get started until 1:20 Central Standard Time. So we are going to have a discussion here for a few hours about the Torah, because like I said, Christians don't read it. And if you did read it and study it, then what you find out is that nothing in the Old Testament actually happened. And today, that's the challenge that I'm putting out, is for anyone who thinks that they can establish that these things happen. I want them to be able to do so. Let me put the link up for people to come on the show on YouTube and Facebook. I'll put that up periodically. We're streaming on Facebook and YouTube here. I am going to have a conversation, a meeting with a guy on Friday, and hopefully I'll be able to have everything on one platform, so that instead of using one streaming platform. But we'll see how that goes. We're going to start out the day with some stupidity.
What's up, brother?
Bishop Nubs. TikTok had to bring you closer to the microphone in order for when so that's the movement. How you doing there, Bishop Nubs?
I am doing well. How about yourself?
Outstanding.
It looks like you're enjoying the gifts of the non-creator, aka the tobacco gods.
Oh yeah, that's the God. That's the true God, the God of the leaf.
Well, that and the green light god.
Hmm.
I mean, he was with me today. He got me through plenty. And then when he saw that, my ways were, dangerous and could have caused an accident, he stopped me from going on and made it safe.
Made it safe.
But I guess the reason that I came up is I've been studying, me and my passion for herbs,
Mm-hmm.
And I got into some study about ancient Greek herbs and Greek medicine.
All right.
And I found Jesus, sir.
Really? Explain.
Yes, I will explain. So I cannot explain to the fullest because I'm getting the look, because I'm not able to say a word. But I found Jesus is in an anointing.
Mhm.
And now, you know how you have the Christos and the Antichristos? Well, one of it is a snake venom, and the other one is the antidote for the snake venom. And if you're looking for what I'm talking about, do you remember the story of Ananias and Sapphira?
Vaguely, but I think I know where you're going. But go ahead.
Yeah, they were unalived for not giving up all of their money.
Mm-hmm.
And Paul was like, we have all these initiates. Everybody take this little thing, and then let's have the truth telling. And when they didn't tell the truth, then he forgot to give them the Antichrist, or the Christ.
Uh-huh.
He just gave them the Antichrist at the beginning. And I'm still studying, so I don't know for sure. But it's looking like a lot of these terms actually go back to medical terms and not, in fact, religious terms. But because they were so closely related in ancient Greece, Christians can't tell them apart. Interesting studies.
Okay. So I'm still a little off on how you found Jesus.
Well, because Jesus would be the Christ,
right?
The anointed one. And literally, if you look at Greek, it's not an individual that unalived on a cross that was the anointed. Like anybody could be the anointed one when they were anointed with this Christos.
Okay, I see where you're going.
It's a salve.
You know what's interesting about that? When I was growing up, we had I was a teen. Well, no, excuse me. No, when I came back to Georgia as an adult, the pastor who was in charge at that time frame, he actually started preaching that since Messiah, Christos just means anointed one, that anybody who is anointed is a Christ.
By Roman standards, kind of. Like, it's kind of weird, and I haven't gotten into the whole thing, but what I've gotten into, it actually makes more sense that it's about rugs and religion, like the bread of life. The bread of life, from my understanding, has more to do with stuff that grows out of cow poop than anything.
For those of you who don't know, those are psychedelic mushrooms.
There you go. You have a life event. You have an ego unalivement when you take those massive doses. So that would be the unalivement of it. All actually makes more sense. Crazy, but it does.
It does. The only problem is, I understand what you're saying. And to a certain extent, I actually agree with what you're saying. That anyone can be anointed based on just the terminology of the words and of such. The problem with the Jesus character is that he is supposed to fulfill a messianic duty that he never does.
Well, he doesn't do any of that.
Yeah.
So we know that's shit.
Yeah, that's the bullshit. But if you just looking at the words for what they mean,
Israel, so we know that one isn't even about that character. So
yeah. Isaiah is strictly about Israel. I don't know why they think Isaiah is about any other time frame other than, but it's the idea.
Because it says pierced his side. That's the only thing that they're going for.
Yeah. But the thing about it is he's still talking about Israel at that time frame. The problem is that Matthew, who is obviously a Greek writer and did not understand the Hebrew as well and didn't understand the Hebrew religion, he put in there all this other extra bullshit to make it seem like it was the Jesus character fulfill these things. But the actual writers know Jesus didn't fulfill shit. Not one thing. But yeah, I've met people who were in different types of, it was like, I forgot what it's some the Unity. You ever heard of the Unity churches?
Oh yeah, unity doctrines.
Yeah, there was one particular Unity church in Georgia. That's what they teach, that it is through going through either through meditations or using psychedelics that you actually become the Christ yourself. And that's your mission, is to become the Christ yourself.
Yeah.
Regardless of,
they read the Greek, that's why.
Yeah. So I understand where you coming from on that one. That's why you Bishop Nubs.
Yeah, dude, when I started looking into this, it was purely about herbs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I give a crap less about something I don't believe in. But then I'm looking at it and I'm like, these are all the same terms that were in the, like, all of it. Like, this is what they were trying to describe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and and go ahead.
When you do engage with the bread of life, there are some heavenly things that happen. But heaven, where is heaven? Heaven's in your brain. Like, it's a state of mind. It's a state of being.
Right.
So if you're on a trip and you go to heaven, but then you come back because, well, the mushrooms wore off, well.
I've been there. And
and what happened in that experience? You were changed. Like, the story actually becomes true when you look at it from that aspect. It has nothing to do with the Sky Daddy. It has to do with mushrooms.
Yeah, and I know some organizations have, they're some, anything that you read, sometimes it has some truth in it, sometimes it has some exaggerations or straight up lies. A lot of people, there was a documentary that was done where it talked about that. I don't know. I know Zeitgeist talked a little bit about it, but there was another one that talked about that many of these teachings and thought processes and icons are simply people having access to, like, the Amoscatter mushroom, things of that nature, accessing that DMT. And a lot of these stories, I think they're very much are utilizing those types of things. A lot of these shamans. I mean, we see that in Mesoamerican history where they used peyote and they thought that they were contacting the spirits.
And what do you get when you go into those states? You get all of the drawings that make up pyramid. Like, you get all of those visuals.
Yeah. I mean,
like, all of those mathematical equations, that's just thoughts within somebody's brain while they were tripping balls and experiencing God.
Yeah. Now, let me put a disclaimer out here. I am not suggesting that anyone do any type of hallucinogens or drugs of any form or fashion.
Either. That's bad.
But
don't follow the Christ.
I'm not gonna say it's bad, but I can tell you on.
No, I'm saying it's bad in the sense of, you wouldn't want to be free of your burdens and your shackles. That's bad. Stay in the bondage of religion.
Yeah. And then, but everyone that I've met who've ever done ayahuasca, each one of them say that if they feared death prior to doing ayahuasca, when they did it, after they don't anymore. They don't fear death. They realize that there is no such thing as death. That is just energy transmuting from one form to another form, and they cease their fear of death, which makes their life tremendously better. Which reminds me of how like the Jesus character says, let the dead bury the dead. In a sense, that is, let dead people bury dead people. But if you're truly alive, then stay with the people who are alive. So for those people who fear death, those are the dead people. Right.
Yep.
And Prince had a song that people didn't pay attention to. It's on his CD, Age of Innocence, where he talks about having dreams outside his head. Right. And he said that most people are born dead, but he was born alive. And I love that song where he talks about that, because it's like he's on a trip when he wrote that damn song.
I think that correlates with Purple Rain very, 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 very much so, because purple, like that purple, the burning purple, purple rain, like these are all references from ancient Greece. And it's about that journey. It's about that trip. And if you listen to Purple Rain, that's what he's talking about. He's talking about going on a trip on his favorite rocket ship.
I'm trying to remember the name of the Prince song I just mentioned because I know somebody just asked what it was. The album is Age of Innocence. Let me see. Hold on.
I know what you're talking about. I've heard the song.
Oh, Way Home. The song is called Way Home. I think it's Way Home.
That
like
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super. Because where is home, man? Like
right.
The experience, our world here in this realm, is it really real, or is the astral world when we sleep? Is that the real world?
I think they're all the real world.
Right.
It's just, can you transition from one world to the next world? That's the big question.
Right. And can you bring things back and forth?
Probably not.
Other than mind. Because what is mind but media?
Yeah.
Right.
Probably not. Probably not. If I was doing lives back, there was a time frame where if I was doing lives, I was all about the metaphysical. It was like I've been seriously talking about metaphysical stuff from front to back and all its connections. But the only thing that is questionable is the fact that we have absolutely no idea what that true state of being is after we die. We have no idea.
In there, I've done that. I always came back here every time.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime that I unalived as a small child, I woke right back up.
What?
So Christians, unalivement is not a scary process.
Mm-mm.
You don't go to Jeebus.
You don't go to hell.
You come back. In my personal firsthand experience, you wake back up when you die. I don't think that's necessarily how it always works. I think it was maybe like some medical intervention for me, a little bit of shocking. It is what it is. It made me nubs.
Right.
But anyways, I just wanted to bring you that little bit of information. And as I get more information about the blessed trip of Christ and the bread of life, I will continue. But I will say that there's something oddly specific about ancient rites of the Romans,
mm-hmm.
and specifically Matthew 14 and the garden scenario where, there's that scantily dressed child or the lay stace.
We'll have to get into that. That's not part of the subject matter today, sir.
We'll get into that one of these days. That'll be fun.
Jesus in the woods with a naked boy. We'll talk about that on a different day.
Right. My final thought on that is check out, and I don't fully advocate, but I do have an understanding. There's a guy by the name of Amon Hillman. Check out he's kind of one of those smart people where you're like, huh. And I got into Amon because of his botany and biology, not because of what he says about the Christian church. It just happens to fit.
Okay. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah. Much love, brother.
All right. Much love to you. Bishop Nubs, everyone. Bishop Nubs.
Earthworms to those that deserve it. Green lights to those that deserve them. Much love.
Bye. Always a interesting conversation with Bishop Nubs. Let's see. Shit. I don't know who wanted to come up. Who came? I didn't look. Give me a second. Yeah, Prince was great. The Tower of Babel was the internet. Nah, bro. Unless you're looking at it from the perspective of the Anunnaki story, then you would say that the Tower of Babel is some type of communication device. So therefore, you can say that it was the internet based on the Anunnaki version of that story. I think this propagates where this person should have been the first person. For those who are just joining in, yeah, I haven't been live for a minute. I have some business opportunities, still may have some other ones. So my lives are going to be sporadic. They're not going to be all at the on a schedule like they were before. Roddy. Am I pronouncing it right? Roddy? Hello, Roddy. Roddy? Roddy? You there? I'm waiting. We're going to give Roddy a few, see if he gets himself together here. He's just in the background. Well, he's not speaking, so we're just going to disconnect that one. Where's the disconnect? It's been a minute, so I got to remember how to do some of this stuff. What up, Liz? Lo?
What up, Coach?
How you doing, man? Yeah, it's as the song says, it's been a long time. I shouldn't have left you.
Yeah, long time no see. I was like, you don't ever come on in no more. I wonder what happened.
Nah, just like I said, I had some business opportunities that took up a large part of my time, and so the beginning stages of anything in business usually takes a lot of your time. Still working through some stuff, working on some things. So, but now I do have some time, and so when I do have time, so I can't say that I'll definitely be live on this day or that day. It's kind of a day-by-day thing. Like I wanted to go live yesterday, but one dude was late for an appointment, and so it threw my whole damn schedule off.
Okay. It's good to see you. Yeah. So, did you check out that Book of Jubilees? Have you checked that out yet?
I read the Book of Jubilees a long time ago. It's I don't remember a lot about it. Re-explaining some of the things in Genesis, like it tries to explain the flood story to put the giants in a different perspective and all that sort of thing, but I don't remember most of it.
Yeah, I read it. I'm like, it just seems so obvious that they're trying to like tie up some of the, controversial things in Genesis. Like trying to make more sense and things like that.
Oh yeah, like
especially when it comes to Canaanites, you talking about. I just saw a video you put up about the Canaanites, and about Ham and stuff. And
you cannot go deep into that video because before I wanted to load that video on Facebook and YouTube before I started this live, but I had some technical issues, so I said, let me go ahead and start the live. So it's not uploaded on Facebook and YouTube yet. So I don't want the Facebook and YouTube people hearing the whole video. So we got to keep it minimum on that one. But yes, they pretty much wrote different midrashes to try to explain the nakedness that Ham uncovered of his father to make it fit into their Levitical mindset while they were under Persian rule. And you got these books of Jubilees that does similar things. Book of Enoch does similar things where they're trying to explain the controversial parts of their original story that they created to try to justify shit at different epochs of time.
All right, they gotta make Ham be even more horrible to justify the curse.
Exactly.
It was already, it seemed kind of clear cut to me. I don't know why people have to do something different than what's in Genesis, but it's all about honor. You're supposed to honor your parents, and you dishonor your parents, and so they had to do something different because Noah looks bad. Noah really looks bad because why you curse your son because you was drunk.
Right. It still doesn't work. Cussing your grandchild wouldn't be.
Yeah, man, it's so weird.
Yeah, cursing Canaan makes no sense whatsoever. No matter which version you go with, it makes no sense.
I think it's an oral tradition that they reframed. I think it was supposed to be Ham at first, and they reframed it to Canaan to justify them taking over Canaan and enslaving them and all that stuff.
Yeah, there was a time frame that I believe in Mormonism, in the early stages of Mormonism, they called it the curse of Ham, and that before they switched over to black people are cursed because they didn't pick a side between Jesus and Lucifer. But it was either after that thought process or before, but I think it was before that process where they used to call it the curse of Ham, and saying that that's why black people had to be enslaved and so on, and that's why they can't go to heaven unless they go to heaven as a slave to the couple that's now going to be deified as a god. But that has been used so many different ways in order to promote racism, and even in their time frame, they're using it to promote ethnocentrism, which is equal to racism against the Canaanite people.
Yeah, I agree.
But you know what's funny? The Canaanites never became slaves.
Never?
Not well. Let me rephrase. They've never became slaves to the Israelites. We can't find any evidence of history where Canaanite people became slaves of the children of Japheth or Shem.
Is this what happened in the original story was about Ham? And I mean, I think it was some original racism. I think they were saying, I think because when you look back at Genesis and you look at the people that are slaves of the fathers and stuff, like Abraham and them, they're people of descent from either Egyptian descent, or Hamitic descent. So I'm thinking there was some racial stuff back then too, like the darker people, we enslaved them, but we gonna be cool with each other.
Yeah,
Gentiles and all that, and they just put it to Canaan. They just came up with a story to make it Canaan because it don't make sense to curse Canaan. Canaan, it was Ham who did it.
well, that's true. And then you also have to curse Canaan because you can't curse his sons Mizraim, because the Egyptians, he supposedly be the fourth, the one who created the Egyptians. Well, the Israelites certainly never enslaved the Egyptians. They never conquered that territory, and so they never enslaved them. The son that becomes the North Africans, a part of the North African, they never enslaved them, nor did Ethiopia, the Cush, the Cush community.
Cush, Put, and Mizraim, right?
Mizraim, yeah. It's Cush, Put, Mizraim, and Canaan. And the only ones, like the Israelites, were under the Egyptian control, which would be a hockey assist of being under the Cushite control. They really didn't deal with the people of Put. And then so the only ones you got left is the Canaanites, who were right there in the Levant. So they can't, and they were their main adversary at the time frame. The other Semitic groups who were in that region, they were their main adversary. But here's the funny part. The son, Shem's children, the children of Shem were never originally in the Levant. They were in Iraq, Iran, northern Turkey. They are the ones who become the Hittites, the Assyrians, the Amorites, the Moabites, all of them people. So it's like those people actually wind up enslaving the Israelites, or conquering the Israelites, not the children of Canaan. I mean, children of Ham. It's the children of Shem who enslaves the other children of Shem.
Right. Well, you would say at some point, Israel had to conquer the Canaanites to have a nation. They had the Israel nation that, from when you look at the parameters of their nation. So if the Canaanites were there first, then they would have had to have conquered them at some point. And I'm thinking that whole story is like a justification for them. And if you read the Book of Jubilees, that area supposedly was supposed to go to Shem's people first. So that's
right. I remember that part. It was supposed to go to Shem's people, but the Canaanites came in and settled in there anyway and kicked them out. And then that's why they ended up in Chaldea. And then they come back under Abraham. So you're saying they had to conquer the Canaanites? Not necessarily. The Bronze Age, so Egypt controlled that entire region during the whole time frame that Moses supposedly existed, right? During the whole time frame of Joshua, Egypt was in control of that region. The Bronze Age collapse happens around 1000 BCE. Egypt is kicked out of there, but the sea people don't come in and occupy the Levant. So now that you have this offshoot of people called Israelites, who were just a roaming nomadic people group, and you did have Canaanites who were in the Levant as well, now it becomes this wild west of seizing control of areas. Kind of like how in the Americas colonization was going on between the Spanish, the French, and the British, right?
Yeah.
And they were just taking land from they just taking land. You got the Louisiana area by the French, you had Florida by the Spanish, the West Coast by Mexico and the Spanish, and you had the British taking their 13 colonies, and then they just started expanding. And of course, they had wars and skirmishes, but they also had purchases and agreements. So what we don't know is how everything was happening between 1000 BCE up until around 790 BCE, when you actually get a kingdom established, right? So
yeah,
because we don't
video of some guy did it. I think I said it to you before, where he was saying that Israel is actually what's the word I'm looking for? The confederacy of the Canaanite groups that became a nation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That they were actually Canaanites themselves.
Yes.
And they just came up with this story or whatever to separate themselves, to make them into one people.
Yeah. They basically, that's pretty much how it happens. So you have a offshoot of Canaanite people who left the coastal land of the Levant, moved into the hill country. They were nomadic people. Once the Egyptians were gone, they tried to establish, they kind of came together with other nomadic people and created some type of, like you said, confederacy in that 1900, maybe in the 800s BCE time frame. And then as they got bigger and stronger, they create Israel, and so they had to create their own stories of their origin and of their creation, and give them authority. So they took the Yahweh God and elevated him beyond Baal, where they gave him likenesses of Baal, elevated him beyond Baal, so that they can distinguish themselves with a different version of their God, and then later on smash them together with El as well, to make themselves feel like they have some authority to do what they're doing.
Yeah, and that might explain the whole concept of the 12 tribes. It might just be actual different groups that came together rather than peoples that descend from the same from Jacob.
Yeah, that would make more sense than Jacob having 12, 13 babies and then creating 12 tribes out of the 13 babies that he had, with slave wives and his sister wives.
Yeah, man. Well, man, it's good to see you back on here. I saw that one video. I didn't even finish it, but I saw that you was live, so that's why I went to this.
Oh, all right. Appreciate it.
Check it out, man. All right. Talk with you.
All right. Take it easy, Lou. All right. I urge you to stop spreading misinformation in these end times. Wait a minute. Let me say it right. Hold on. I got to say this comment the right way, because this is how this comment sounds to me. I urge you. I can't get it. I urge you to stop spreading misinformation. In the end times, judgment is, I can't get the voice right. I had it last night messing with my wife. I can't even do it. Anyway, I urge you to stop spreading misinformation. In the end times, judgment is upon these nations. There is no judgment. There is no end times. Y'all been preaching end times since the beginning of time. Everybody's had these end time is going to end. The world's going to come to a conclusion. It is not. The world will either come back to a conclusion because we get smacked by a big ass meteorite, we heat death, or man just destroys himself. And even if man destroys himself, the world will continue. Man's time on this planet has been very brief. So that shit ain't happening, bro. And misinformation, it's interesting. It's misinformation, but they can never come up and tell us what that misinformation is. Break that misinformation down. You got plenty of opportunity. Bible equals mind control. Welcome to the show.
How you doing, Coach?
Outstanding.
Good. I love today's topic. I'm originally Dre Bells on Facebook, but I've been talking to you for some time, and you told me to make my own YouTube. So this is the name of my name on YouTube. Bible equals mind control.
Cool. I like the name.
Yes, sir. I'm enjoying today's topic. I was listening. I had something to say, but the last guy basically said it when he was saying on how Christianity, how the Canaanites were one group, and then they spread it to after the Egyptians left, they spread it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember saying this in a debate to somebody. I remember you said it. Most religions or denominations or religions came about from people breaking away from other religions. Like I
Yes.
remember you gave an example with the Seventh-day Adventists. That was because another a rapture failed or something like that, and so they broke off. And I was like, that's so funny. Like it's just a bunch of people breaking from people to break from people and break from people, and nobody even knows what the hell really is.
That's generally how it happens. I think that was Miller had given a rapture prediction. It didn't happen. And then
Right.
old girl stepped in, Ellen G. White stepped in, and then but after she gave her rapture prediction and it didn't happen, then they reorganized her prediction. Yeah, those things happen over and over again. And not just in Christianity. You had Hinduism, and then that evolved into Buddhism, broke off from that, and then Taoism broke off from Buddhism. So there's always a continuation, and we even see it today in Christianity. There are so many various forms of Christianity. They're almost their own religion, as we see like spiritualism and mysticism in Christianity coming around. So
Correct.
It'll be something different. You got variations in Islam, between the Shiites and Sunnis and all that bullshit.
So I had an ultimate what I think to believe an ultimate solution to either help the atheists and the other people who doubt God like us, either to wake us up or to wake them up. But through this experiment, somebody is going to be woken up. Hear me out. Hear how it goes.
All right.
It's a plan where we have an invite for let's say an hour, one day in the year for an hour, no matter what denomination you are, no matter what religion you are, no matter who you pray or what you pray to. The point and the goal is to pray for world peace. We're not talking about conquering no land. We're not talking about giving back no money. We're not talking about nothing like that. We just, whatever the meaning of world peace is in your language, we want you to understand that that's all we're praying for an hour. So my logic says, if we got all of the thesis, so it didn't matter what God you was praying to, but everybody was praying for that world peace. And world peace was supposed to happen. Hey, us thesis got to be like, hey, we don't know which one it was because all of them was doing it, but something happened, and so we got to start believing into something. We got to conclude what it is. If nothing happens, then it's time that they wake up to realize it don't matter who or what you're praying to. It's not going to happen until we decide to do it. We got to protect ourselves. No gods are going to protect us.
Okay. I'm with you. It ain't gonna happen. But I'm with you.
So,
I
so I
mean,
was looking at the reality of trying to make it happen, and the only way I could really do that is by influencing mega churches or mega YouTube influencers to try to come up with this day or whatever. And the more, I'm sure within like 5 years of it happening, I might get at least 1 million and change involved.
yeah, that would be a big blow, really, because world peace would not happen because you would have to get every major political person in the world to also participate in this for it to happen. Right? Not that you can't get it done, that you can't get millions of people to pray for world peace at the same time of different religions. I 100% agree that you can get that done. And it
Right.
can,
The way social media is, it's definitely easy to get that part. But what's the other part you're saying that's hard?
well, devil's advocate, right?
Mhm.
Without the world leaders participating in such an event and then acting upon it, then we still not going to have world peace. Won't happen because the different leaders of different nations still have their nation, their nationalism is of their interest, right? So are they really going to pull back out of the countries that they're invading? Or they're really going to stop fighting other countries or believing
For
that
an
they
hour,
deserve? Huh?
if for an hour, if you, I mean, the only person I think that would naturally oppose to this would be Trump. But everybody else, if you can't just stop ceasefire for an hour, because as a world we're trying to just accomplish an hour of world peace, at least like an
Oh,
hour of
you
world peace.
oh, you talking about just 1 hour. And then we go
Yeah,
back to
but I
war,
mean,
then we go back to
no, but
fighting.
I'm saying, I'm saying we're praying for it. We're
Right.
praying. Everybody is praying. Everybody is focusing their energy on that mission. Like, let
Right.
us have it for world peace. After this hour, we're trying to see how long world any kind of world peace lasts, right? And
Right.
we're gonna have to come up with a statistic to say, because like it can't be so much that's happening and then we say, oh, that's not it. But we could say, well, the percentages went down after everybody concentrated or not, you know. But it's the point of both people coming together, thesis and non-thesis, focusing their energy on something. Because while us, we're not going to pray to nobody, but we probably going to be looking at the numbers and seeing what's happening and hoping it
Mm.
works, you know, or hoping or can't wait to say, look at this. Nothing worked. Are y'all ready to join the dark side? You know, whatever happens.
Yeah, but what is the definition of world peace? Is that also no crime is happening? Nobody's beating their wives or wives beating their husbands?
Ah,
No.
that would have to be a clear definition that a worldwide, globally agreement too. Because what we may see as world peace, another may not see as world peace. That's true.
Yeah. So you got to
Damn.
define it.
All right, I thought I had a plan. You made me see I have to go back to the drawing board.
And then when you got religions like Christianity and Islam and Judaism, so the Abrahamic religions, praying for world peace is anti-thesis or some shit, some word like that. It's some anti-$5 word to their religion in itself. Like Jesus
Why
said,
you say that?
like Jesus said, I came to bring the sword. Uh,
Mm.
Jews believe that they are supposed to take all the land that they own based on their God, all the land to the Euphrates, which would include Iraq and down to the Sinai Peninsula. That's Egypt and Saudi Arabia, and they're supposed to control Lebanon and Syria. So they believe that their God is supposed to give them all of that land, right? And then Muslims, they think that if a person doesn't convert over to Islam, then they're infidels, and they can either be overly taxed or killed.
Correct. But no, I think no group wants to be the ones to say, no, we're not going to participate for world peace. Because we could easily, you know, as a humanity, they'll be kind of shunned in a way. Like, oh, look, it's kind of like the UN thing. you see how the rest of the world kind of agreed or wanted um, uh, slavery to be the greatest atrocity that happened in humanity, and
Uh-huh.
most of the people that said no was United States, Palestine,
Mm-hmm.
and Argentina. But the rest of the most of the world and the others that said that they're undecided, subliminally we know their history and culture why they said that. But the
Right.
rest of the world said so really. And then if you see how the rest of the world is pro-Palestine in a way, the world is really solving itself without America is not as big as they are, right, or
Yeah.
used to be. The
Now,
world is actually solving itself.
I like the idea of you of promoting that for the sake that, as you said in the very beginning of your statement, that it should wake people up, that people should start saying that, wait a minute, we can't, if God is a good God, whoever the God is, then we should be able to pray for world peace, come together and pray for world peace, and it should happen. The fact that
Yes,
it doesn't happen, can happen, should wake up some people to say that, well, what am I really participating in? If
exactly.
we
That's
are,
my whole point.
yeah. So in a way, it's like I'm putting up in the forefront that we want world peace and we're going to bring world peace. But I know my real mission is to demonstrate how this shit is impossible with believing in religion. So therefore, we're going to wake more people up to realize that the religion is bullshit, which as more and more people wake up to realize religion is BS, we actually have a chance to get to world peace.
Exactly. Though that energy that we use during the prayer will actually realize that we're wasting that energy. Let's focus on actually putting it into the community. Let's like we
Yeah,
are the ones to do it.
I'm tracking. I got you. I got you. I'm down for the
Yes,
cause.
sir.
I'm down for the cause.
Yes, sir. So I'm gonna start trying to reaching out to people and promote this to YouTubers and see how far it goes. But my goal is by next year to actually start it, have a date down.
Yeah.
I wanted to do it for it would be fly if I did it this year. I would have put it at 6/6/26, but no, stability has been 6/6. Oh man, I thought about it, but I
No,
won't be able to
I ain't gonna be
get
able
it
to do
done
that.
so fast. Yeah. If only I
Maybe
thought about it before.
7/7/27.
7. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, 777.
Seven
That
seven
that
twenty
rocks.
seven. That way they
Yeah.
can be like everybody like, oh, it's the year of completion. This means completion.
Completion.
And I
Yes.
guarantee July 7th of 2027, it's gonna be some bunch of bullshit out there about it. This is the year of completion. Everything. If I was a pastor right now, I'd be saying that you got to get yourself ready, you got to get them ties because July 7th of 2027, God is gonna bring completion to the people. Because and that gives me a whole year and some change to get your money. If you ain't a
I
pastor,
thought about
listen,
it.
we just gave you something.
I, gems. I thought about it too. For each year, I could just move it to numbers, triple meaning, so you'll always remember it.
That's right.
Next year we're doing it on 888. The next year we're doing it on 999.
Now you can't mess with 999
Oh,
because some people,
what?
some Christians flip the 666 and say that it's upside down and it's actually 999.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that year the Christians might drop out, but then we'll see who's God made.
Yeah.
Who.
But 10, 10, 10 and 11, 11, 11 and 12, 12, 12,
Woo.
man. Well, no, you can't do 11, 11. What the hell I'm talking about?
No, because that's a 21.
Well,
Yeah, it's a
11, 11,
21.
31. I don't know. We can figure
31,
out
right.
shit.
But good looking, coach. I'm taking back to the drawing board. But thank you for the inspiration. I definitely believe that it could work.
Hey, keep me updated, man. I will gladly lend my hand.
Thank you. Keep doing a good job on the show.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. We might get into the subject matter today. So I got Pharaoh on TikTok, on Facebook, and then Miss Fifi on TikTok. Hopefully she's still there. Pharaoh, Trying to keep everybody in order.
Yes. Peace, brother. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I watch your videos. Yeah, and I like your content on
Thank you.
Christianity. Yeah, and and also I'm not a believer, and I agree with the title of your video, because I myself I'm a historian, I'm a history freak, and I get off like into ancient texts and history, and and this thing, it is like that they are these Christians and Bible followers. They're trying to reinvent this Israelite identity. It's like the Old Testament. It comes to a close after the so-called 10 tribes of Israel. They go into Assyrian captivity and they get lost,
Right.
and and we hear nothing about them from ancient historians. Like Herodotus, who was writing during that time, he says nothing about these Israelites, and but it's like all of a sudden, in modern times, when after the printed press comes out and the English language starts become the dominant language for writing history, all of a sudden, they're making up these stories and making everybody Israelites, like, and it's like I'm like, hey, you can't do that, because you're skipping over 1,000 years of history, and trying to reinvent a story, and they making up lies to do this. And and concerning the title, like when we deal with the biblical Israelites, we have to we have to look at one important fact, and that is everyone, every nation that's mentioned in the Bible, such as the principal nations, such as the Egyptians, the Assyrians, the Persians, they all have evidence for their existence.
Yeah.
We see nothing for these Israelites or the kings of Israel. It's like, if you want to convince me that these people were real, show me the city of Israel with the inscriptions of David, the inscriptions of Solomon. Where's the city of Israel? We can go to the Egyptians. They have their own inscriptions. Lots of them. They have statues of their kings. Statues of their gods. Go to Assyria. They have their own inscriptions. Speaking of their conquest and their history, the Persians, they have their own inscriptions, but we see nothing for these people called Israelites.
Yeah.
And yeah,
The
and it's
first
like
time, the first time we see anything about Israelites is in the Merneptah Stele in 1204, when Merneptah talked about destroying a people called Israelites, and he describes them as a nomadic group of people, so they're not a nation at that point. The next time that we see anything that deals with them is in the Stele, where it talks about destroying the house of David, that he fought against the house of David, but the house of David can mean almost anything. And so then after that, the next thing is Hezekiah. So their history as a nation really doesn't start until you get to Hezekiah, which is in the 700s BCE. So that's the earliest that we can definitely say that there was a nation of Israel. But they were quickly conquered during that time frame by the Assyrians. So this illustrious history just doesn't exist. There's no proof of it. And like you said, everybody else, we can find their history.
Yeah, and even the kings, like Amenhotep, Ramesses, the kings of Assyria, Sennacherib, Ashurbanipal, kings of Persia, Cyrus, Darius. They have images of themselves. We know how they look. you know,
Right.
but we don't know how David looked. We don't know how Solomon looked. You know, we don't even know how Hezekiah looks. You know, they're just in this. It's just an inscription, you know, describing him, but he has no images of himself. You know, and I'm like, you know, how fake and false can this get? I mean, even if it was the truth, you
Right.
know, it's not our truth. It don't belong to us.
It certainly
You
don't
know,
belong to us. Now, I will say that Hezekiah, we give Hezekiah the break and say that he probably most likely existed, because we have the extra biblical writings from Sennacherib in his conquest of Israel, and the bribe that was the payment that was given to Sennacherib from Hezekiah. So that's like one of the main reasons we accept Hezekiah. Now, you're right, we don't have any pottery of their images, we don't have any coins of Sennacherib or any of those people. We don't have that shit.
Yeah,
But based on them being conquered, we accept that those people existed.
Yeah. I'll agree that he existed, but I'll just say that he wasn't powerful. Like he wasn't no. I mean, they were not powerful kings because they didn't, you know, they had no images of themselves. You know, they were always vassals to, you know, to the Assyrians and the Egyptians. But yeah, but I would say like they
were like Panama.
Yeah.
Like, everybody know the United States, Mexico, some of the biggest South American countries, but nobody, you know, Panama is kind of like we just sitting here hoping that we on the side of whoever got the biggest gun.
Yeah.
And that's how like the Israelites are. We just a little country that just hopefully nobody mess us over, but we keep getting messed over. So damn.
Yeah. And another thing too, you know, like because I debate the Israelites on the street all the time, you know, and I have my own channel as well, and it's like they're trying to convince me that we are the Israelites, and I'm an Israelite, but I'm like, okay, how could we be the Israelites when our West African ancestors were not even mentioned in the Bible? You know, how can we be the Israelites when we're not even the Assyrians, we're not the Persians, you know, we're not the Indians, we're not the Arabians, you know, we're not the people, we're not even mentioned in the Bible because I mean, and that right there shows that it's not realistic, you know. And these guys, they go to these late English written sources, you know, late 1400, 1500 sources to try to prove that Jews were in West Africa and we the Jews, because I mean, well, what? And I'm like, well, why would you even entertain that? You know, because that's like, you know, it's like a forgery. You know, you're adding forgeries to original text. You know, I mean, that has nothing to do with the original text. It's like a forgery in an anachronism. You know,
I'm with you 100%. It makes absolutely no sense that they talk about how the white people have done this and white people have done that, but then when white people got some information that supports their narrative, all of a sudden, yeah, this is true.
Yeah.
Freaking hypocrites.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it makes no sense because I'm like, you know, if you want to prove to me, because I always believe that these people are Israelites and ancient Jews, original Jews, they never set foot in West Africa. You know, because I asked them the question, you know, if you want to prove to me that these people were in West Africa, show me the ancient texts. Show me the ancient texts that these people were in West Africa, because I have a rule, you know, I'm like, you can't claim ancient BCE people using modern day English. I mean, that's as fraud and forgery as it gets.
Yeah,
because we know who the people of North Africa was when you read real ancient history, you know, such as the Carthaginians, who were Phoenicians or Canaanites,
right.
the Numidians, the Moors, you know, and even the Romans were in North Africa. But these people, Jews, or Israelites were nowhere present, and they always try to make these people as if they were like the majority or the foremost population when they were not even there at all.
No, they were a minor population in the world.
Yeah, and it's like it makes no sense, you know. And it's like they trying to steal other people's ancient texts, and they can't show their own ancient texts. You know, show me the ancient text of West Africa. You know, stop trying to steal this ancient text that belongs to Israel. You know, this ancient text that's not supported by any archaeological evidence. You know, but yet they want to steal it and make it their own, and they can't show themselves in the book. You know,
yeah, they just sad, and they just trying to attach themselves to a popular story. If it was some other popular story, they'd be trying to attach themselves to that. To make themselves feel better.
Yeah, and it's like these guys, man. You know, because I don't believe in any modern day interpretations on ancient history. I believe in whatever was written, what is contemporary with the time. You know, the person, the historian or whatever, writing on their own time. That's what I believe in. You know, and yeah. But these guys, man, they're just continuously, adding falsehoods and forgeries to try to validate this false biblical identity on Black Americans, and I see it's all, I see it as a Christian's fault, and that's why I always believe that the first Israelites, the people who were the closest to the Israelites in America and in Africa were the white Christians, because they, according to their Bible, if you accept Christ, you're a spiritual Israelite, or you're the seed of Abraham or whatever, which makes no sense.
You get grafted in.
Yeah, I mean, because how can Jesus' identity and bloodline be your bloodline? That makes no sense, but I see it as that these people, it all started with the Bible. These people, they were the closest thing to the Israelites, and it trips me out when Black Americans try to identify the slaves in the Atlantic slave trade with the slaves in the book of Exodus, but you can't do that because that doesn't belong to us. That it already came to pass according to the Bible, and that's why, and I see that, that's why a lot of Black Americans identify with the Israelites, because they try to connect our slavery to the Israelite slavery in the book of Exodus, but that's
a way for them to justify it. So they can justify this transatlantic slave trade by using Exodus and Deuteronomy 28, so that they can feel like what was done was God approved, and they can still hold on to this religion that they were indoctrinated to in an early age, but they put their own, kind of like when we was talking, me and the guy before was talking about how religions spurn off from other religions. So when you had the Great Day of Disappointment, you had all these different other versions of Christianity spurn off. So encapsulating the transatlantic slave trade with the Bible allows them to create this separate religion and then justify their actions of maintaining that religion and whatever theology they come up with, within it. Yeah, but it's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And they're like, what they don't realize is, that belief is unrealistic. Trying to connect the slaves of the Atlantic slave trade with the Exodus, but the realistic and the historical reality is that the people who had us enslaved, they were Bible followers, they were Christians. Yep. Yeah, they followed the God of Israel, and they saw themselves as the descendants of the Israelites. They even try to say that, you know, they were going to make America the new Israel. So it's like it's like it was the historical reality shows that it was the other way around. You know, the people who enslaved us, they were closer to the biblical Israelites. You know, but the slaves, you know, the slaves were nothing about the slaves was Israelite or biblical, you know.
No, it's not.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, and they try to act like, you know, that the white Europeans or the slave master, the white man was Pharaoh, and you know, when these white people, these white Christians worship Egyptian gods, you know, and the white man was Pharaoh, and it's all it's all fake and unrealistic, you know. It's like, hold up, man. The people who enslaved us had the same. They were the same as the Israelites who were enslaved in Egypt. The people who were enslaving us, they followed
Right.
the same God as the Israelites. So it's like, how can you say that? You know, you can't connect us with the Israelites.
No, you can't.
But you have to connect the slave masters and the enslavers with the Israelites, because they were the sole, you know, Bible followers and followers of Abraham, of the Abrahamic faith. The same with the Muslims. The Muslims, they also, you know, they're of the Abrahamic faith, and they were enslaving Africans and on the African continent as well. So it's like, how are you trying to, you know, take that identity away from them and place it on us? You know.
Yeah. That's their delusion. But let me let some more people get up here.
Oh yeah.
But I appreciate
Yeah,
I'm
indeed.
trying to keep, you know, when I got multiple people trying to come up, you know, I try to keep the conversations about 20 minutes apiece.
Indeed.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. It's just a delusion that they create for themselves in order to maintain this belief.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it was a pleasure talking to you, brother, and you have a nice day.
All right. Appreciate you. You have a great one too.
All right. Peace.
Don't leave. Stay in the comments. Stay in the comments. All right. Let's see. Miss Fifi is coming up. Oh, shit. Oh, quite a few people not hit YouTube, TikTok, I mean. So.
Oh, shit.
Hey, Miss
Is that how you greet me?
Hey, Miss Fifi, how you doing? No, I was saying, oh shit, because I didn't see you.
Nice to see you.
It's nice to see you too.
I did try to find you on YouTube, but I failed. And I said, "Oh my goodness, look who's on TikTok." And so, anyway, I had to come up.
Yeah.
The gentleman before me, he probably described everything that I was doing. They got me with the Adam and Eve. Adam.
Yes. Isn't
and it's real. And the thing about it is, it can be reproduced. Can you reproduce that one more time so I can see the man, you know, getting a rib and, you know, developing a female? Oh my goodness, that's so misogyny.
Oh, it definitely is. And I mean, with CRISPRs, we may be able to do something like that one day, to be able to CRISPRs is the ability to redesign DNA so that you can make a person be how you want them to be, you know, in the eye color, skin tone, hair, all that sort of thing. So it's just designer DNA. But what you won't be able to do is to create a whole new person from scratch like that.
Of course.
Yeah. It's still going to fail.
You got to get some DNA from somewhere.
Exactly. And we know that parthenogenesis doesn't happen within human beings. So that's not going to happen. You do have one instance of chimera happening, which is where you still have the father sperm, mother egg, but then some extra mother egg, another mother egg goes into the zygote and creates more of the mother. But there's only one documented case of that. But isn't it interesting how this God creates Adam out of the dirt, but when he wants to create Eve, he don't repeat his process of creating Eve out of the dirt, but has to create her out of the man's rib.
Mm-hmm.
If your first method worked, why not do your second? Why not continue with the first method? Why you gotta try to do something different? Unless you want to make women be submissive to men.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the gist of it.
Mm-hmm. And of course, the story could not have happened because the Adam and Eve story would have happened in 4004 BCE.
No,
We've been around longer than that.
I think so.
Yes, we have too much evidence to show that other civilizations and human beings, and even if we just specifically talk about Homo sapiens, have been around longer than 6,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole story is just a bunch of nonsense.
I know. I've deconstructed so much in the last 6 months. I can't believe it. It's kind of hard to read my Bible without thinking, this is a fairy tale. This never happened, don't you?
Yeah, I can't read it and not see it as a fairy tale or created history. That's the only way. Yeah, beyond that, it's like reading the Twilight Saga or reading a play from Shakespeare. Might have some historical things in it, like a city or a certain person, but the overwhelming majority of it just came out of the mind of William Shakespeare. That's it. There's no truth to it, So, and I wasn't greeting you saying shit. I was saying, oh shit. I didn't realize how many people had requested up on TikTok. I try to keep track so I know who's next.
Well, I just wanted to speak to you. I've deconstructed. What is it to say?
Yeah.
It's a fairy tale.
Yeah. And the way to find me on YouTube is the easiest way is to put in at Coach Renz, RENZ, the number 33.
Say that again.
At Coach Renz, and then the number 33. So at Coach Renz 33 is the easiest way to find me on YouTube or Facebook.
Okay. Will do.
All right.
I like these discussions.
Thank you, Miss Fifi.
You're welcome. Nice seeing you.
And nice seeing you too. I would never be disrespectful to Miss Fifi. That wouldn't happen. I don't know. I know one person who was behind Miss Fifi. The other group, I don't know. So I'm gonna try to do this as best I can. How do I say your name? Jumanji?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jumanji. What's going on, man? I'm seeing you in a minute, man. I was like, damn, this dude got banned off YouTube. I'm like, man, somebody reported him.
No, I just had a lot of business stuff come up, and so it took all my time.
Oh yeah, that's understandable. Yeah, I'll be watching your clips on YouTube, so you'll be getting something there. But to the topic though, man, no, the Torah didn't happen the way they said it happened. One thing that got me coming out of Christianity is that someone's echo? Is that me? The echo?
It's a little bit of background noise with you, but it's fine. It's not bothering me.
Okay. All right, so yeah, it was basically, God's supposed to be the universal God, but it's like reading Genesis, man. It's like, okay, he deals with the nations in like the first 10 chapters before he wipes them out in the flood, and then after Abraham, it's like he doesn't deal with anything else anymore. It's like he's stuck to this one place.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's like, okay, what it sounds like is these people who wrote this story, they wrote it to put themselves into every event that happened in the past, to tell their children that we've been here, we connected to Moses, the first human. And then you want to put, all your people was connected to the powers that be. It's like always Joseph and them, they were connected to the Pharaoh. It's
right.
Like, come on, man, y'all rule with the Pharaoh? Really? And then, even Moses, like, look at the name, like Moses, they redefined what that meant. Most likely, that name had a deity in front of, Moses. They would have had a deity. They took that deity thing out completely and just said Moses. When you think of Ramses, that's the son of Ra.
Right.
All these other names had a deity in front. So they took it out and they redefined it like, oh, we named him that because he was drawn out of. No, the Egyptians called their powerful people Moses with the deity in front to dignify or signify, the son of. But yeah, that's all I see, man. These Torah stories are basically people telling something long time after to their children that we were connected to history, and they're gonna retell it.
No, I agree with you 100% with that. And I mean, that's all they're doing. It's kind of like, how like people want to look at their ancestry, and especially Black people, they kill me with this one. Like, everybody wants to be a descendant of a king or a prince or a queen or some shit like that. My ancestor was probably a farmer. Probably wasn't doing nothing major in society, but everybody wants to think grander of themselves, and that's exactly how this whole Israelite story is told, to make themselves seem grand. So I agree with you 100% on that one. And you're right about most of the Egyptian pharaoh names are like, you have Thutmoses. I don't know what Thutmoses means, but I would probably wager that it does have some type of deification to it. So you're absolutely right in that. And then they still part of that story is stolen from. They would have known about Emperor Sargon and how he came into power, and so they said, well, we're going to use some of Sargon's power, since he was considered the first emperor and a great emperor over the Akkadians. So yeah, I can see that's how most of this story is borrowed from other people, but implementing themselves to make themselves feel greater. I agree with you 100%, Jumanji.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yes, that's true facts, man. But yeah, I'm gonna drop down, man. But good talking to you, sir.
Good talking to you too. I appreciate you. Let's see. I don't know which one of these were next, but I'm just gonna press one. Jerome, sorry. Jerome, you there? Jerome in the house. Jerome. I guess Jerome's busy. And let's see if silence.
No, I didn't send no request. I'm sorry.
Oh, that was accident. Oh, cool.
I was
Okay.
just listening.
All right, no problem. Silence was driving too. Be safe. Well, I'm glad he wasn't trying to come up. Got to be safe when we drive. Oh shit! You know what? It is Cinco de Mayo, right? It's Cinco de Mayo. I think I need to do a little Cinco de Mayan. Cinco de Mayo. I know y'all can't see the glass. Started a new company called Gold Dragon Cigar Club. One of the things I was working on. Got to put my metal frozen ball in there. From Cinco de Mayo. Air out. I'm sure Cinco de Mayo here in San Antonio is going to be big. Let's get a little bit of the Devil's River bourbon to go with my Cinco de Mayo. Yeah. Get that pour in there. Little Devil's River bourbon. You ever in San Antonio, you want to get you some of this Devil's agave bourbon. Happy Cinco de Mayo. And here's the funny thing about Cinco de Mayo. It's a made-up holiday based on not a rebellion, but it wasn't the Independence Day of Mexico. If memory serves me, it was a last-ditch effort against the Spanish where people held up and fought well against the Spanish, but they was ultimately destroyed, kind of like Masada in Israel. And so when it was a regional holiday, but when the beer company, what's the beer company for Cinco de Mayo? Corona. When Corona wanted to launch into America, they had difficulties at first. So here in Texas, they came up with the idea of Cinco de Mayo and Corona being the official beer of Cinco de Mayo in celebrating them standing against the Spanish. So happy made-up holiday to sell a beer, just like biblical statements are made up in order to get your money and get your obedience. Happy Cinco de Mayo. And let me put a coaster down. Happy Cinco de Mayo to everyone. Oh, wait. I got to clear. Ooh, that's when the cigar hit right. Either with that, and yes, I got coffee. So, and I will be drinking both. But happy Cinco de Mayo to everyone. To the made-up holiday. Just like these stories of the Torah are made-up stories. Now, I haven't had anybody come up here and challenge those stories, so I invite someone to prove. I know I've seen some people make some statements on YouTube, but nobody has actually wanted to come up and defend their Bible, defend their Old Testament, to showcase how these stories are true. I mean, we have absolutely no proof of an Exodus story ever happening. We have no proof of a Tower of Babel, Noah's flood, Joshua's conquest, David establishing Israel, or Solomon's kingdom. We have none of these. There's no Abraham in history that we can find. They say where Abraham is buried, yet you could excavate that whole region and no one has ever found the body of Abraham. It would be simple too, because what you would be looking for to find Abraham is there would have to be a cave in Machpelah. Abraham is buried there. Sarah is buried there. Jacob is buried there. So is Bilhah. I can't remember if Abraham's third wife is buried there. Let me know if Abraham's third wife is buried there. But between 4 and 5 bodies, if you find a cave that got about 4 or 5 bodies in there, or skeletal remains, or what, then that may possibly be Abraham. So we have no proof of Abraham. We don't have how when we found the treasure trove of information in Nineveh, when Nineveh was discovered, they found a treasure trove of contracts. Over 250,000 tablets were found. And most of those tablets were financial agreements. So, but there's no tablet that shows where Abraham bought some land from, I think he was a Hittite. We ain't got that. We don't have the agreement tablet. We have nothing that shows that Boaz and Ruth ever existed. People love to talk about, you go to churches, especially around the holidays season and during Valentine's, they love to talk about Ruth and Boaz. Love to talk about them then. We ain't got no proof of Ruth and Boaz. None whatsoever. I don't know if this ball clanking is irritating to y'all, so let me know. I'm trying to keep it quiet. But there's no proof of Ruth and Boaz, and that's supposed to be a direct line to Jesus. Supposed to be a direct line to David and a direct line to Jesus, even though it's impossible for it to be a line of Jesus, but it's supposed to be a direct line to David and Solomon. But we don't have it. We have none of it. Unconscious conscience says Wait. Good, because we must walk by faith and not by sight. Well, if that's the case, then you should be willing to believe in any God whatsoever. Because if you don't need proof of any God, then or the history of this God or the people that is proclaiming this God, then you should also be willing to believe in Brahma. You don't have proof of Brahma. You just got stories. You should be willing to believe in Allah. You just got stories. You should be willing to believe in Eshu and Mama Wata because you just have stories. You should believe in Odin, otherwise known as Woden, because you just got stories. That's it, just stories. And all of them claim to be creators and or demigods and whatnot. So you should believe in them. You should believe in Zeus and Jupiter, that Zeus defeated his father and defeated the Titans and established humanity on the planet. Zeus is your creator. You believe in the God of the Bible because you was born into that family or in that country. Oh. Thank you, Miss Teresa. So my correction. Cinco de Mayo celebrates the mercy victory over the French. I said Spanish. The French at the Battle of Puebla that supposedly took place May 5th, 1862. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you. I appreciate that. Really, I didn't know the French were ever really in Mexico. I didn't know that, but thank you for got some new information there. See, and this is the stupid thing about people who say you got to walk by faith and not by light, not by, walk by faith, not by having proof, because they will make these types of claims. So where are the other pagan gods' books about what they did? Have you ever heard of the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads? If you go and read the Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, you have the stories of Brahma. You have the whole Hindu religion. You got all their information. You have their stories of how they interacted with man and how Krishna came down, and I think he's in his 13th iteration right now. You have how Kali was killing demons, but then she went too far and she started killing people. And so her husband Brahma had to lay down his life in front of Kali. He was willing to sacrifice his life. And Brahma sacrificed his life to save you. How when the gods saw that the world was being destroyed by a flood, how they went and they told Manu to build a boat, put some animals in it, and so that you'll be saved by this flood. That's all in the Upanishads and the Vedics. So there is their books, sir. There's the book. If you want the book, there's the book. And we have many writings of inscriptions of the stories of Zeus and Hercules and, all those people. There are many different scrolls and tablets for that. So you can find it. We have tablets that describe the story of the Anunnaki. Like I said, we have over 250,000 tablets that were just found in Nineveh alone. And although most of them are talking about contracts and whatnot, but we have the story of the Epic of Gilgamesh and with Atrahasis. We have the stories of Enlil and Enki and Anu and Neharsag and Dumuzi. We have all those stories written in stone, so they cannot have been manipulated from the time frame that they were written. So you ask the question of where are their books? They're there. You just don't want to read them, or you cast them aside already and say that they're pagan and fake because you were born into or you grew into a religion that is more common to the area that you were growing up in. You see, y'all got to come up with some better arguments. You believers need some better arguments. And this is the most bullshit argument, right? I am a Hebrew, so I was given the sight by Yahuwah, which is a mispronunciation. So I will never believe in these pagan attributes. See, first you ask for their books. I tell you where their books are, but now you want to ignore it because you had a personal experience. I had a personal experience with Yahuwah. He came down in the light and showed me the signs that I need to walk in. That's bullshit. Hindu can claim the same thing. A person who practices Ifa can say the same thing. Everybody who practices any religion can claim that their God came to them, saved them, showed them, taught them. It's a bunch of bullshit. It's a bunch of bull. Yeah. The reason why their books didn't lead me to making a choice on their part is because their stuff is just as much bullshit as your stuff. It is all the bullshit, sir. It is all the bullshit. Yeah. Anyway, let me see if is it Jervik? Jervik? I hit the button. Jervik? Hello, Jervik. Jervik.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Welcome to the channel.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good. I really love what you're saying. Like I've been following the conversation. I just came in like a few minutes ago, so I've been following the conversation and how you've been being able to dismantle that shackle of religion. It actually has to do with like holy texts, you know, and how they are being transmitted and how people think they are superior to others, right?
Right.
But I wanted to ask a question, like, what's your worldview? Are you an atheist or agnostic?
By half and half. Truly, I am an atheist, but I do leave room that if there is a God, there is not enough evidence to demonstrate that a God exists. But if there is one, it's possibly, is there a mind that generated the entire universe? It's a possibility in theory, but is there any proof that that mind exists? Absolutely not. So so let me rephrase that. I am more atheistic than agnostic. So about 75-25.
So more like agnostic atheist, more like, let me just say.
More like an atheist agnostic. The only because it's more atheism than it is agnosticism. Because agnostics just say that there could be a God, there may not be a God. There's not enough evidence for either one. But I will definitely say that the God of any religion that has been known to man, that none of those are real. That God certainly does not exist. Even Spinoza's God doesn't exist. So none of those gods exist.
Yeah. Okay. Well, again, there was an argument I was listening to, although I've not really gotten the full picture of it.
What is your worldview?
Yeah, I'm theist. I'm not an atheist. I'm theist. I believe there's a God. Okay, and this God, this God. I don't want to be so arrogant to say it is the God of the Bible. All right. But I would just say yes, there is a supreme being, a metaphysical being that actually controls the affairs of men. That is my viewpoint, though. But again, there was an argument I was listening to that was 2 weeks ago. I'm still trying to read more about it and to understand it. I'm sure you must have heard about it before.
Yeah, I have. I mean, I used to be a theist, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's called the Eliot argument. I don't know if you've heard about it before.
The Eliot argument?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so the guy is here on TikTok. The name of his page is the Eliot argument. He wrote, I think he published this book in 2008, and he talks about the Eliot's trichotomy. I'm sure maybe you just want to look at it. The guy
explain it.
Talks about it. Yeah, sir?
Yeah, explain it.
Yeah. So he talks about the three possibilities for the beginning of the universe, right? How the universe began. He talks about space-time eternal, talks about the uncreated creator, and he talks about I think pure nothingness, something like that. And it was like, whatever school of thought you belong to, whatever theory you believe in, it always falls within these three categories. You see that there is an uncreated creator, or there is or maybe it's influenced by space-time eternal, or by pure nothingness. And then he begins to question the atheist, and he will ask you several questions, right? And at the end of the day, the position of the atheist would be, okay, I don't believe in the uncreated creator. I believe is that space-time eternal or from pure nothingness. And from series of questions, he debunks that viewpoint, those two viewpoints, he debunks it, and then you are left with only one, which is the uncreated creator. And
how is that possible? What is the process of this debunking? Because now the reason, okay, now the echo. The reason why I asked that is the fact that I am more apt to go with the eternal universe, right? And it's an impossibility really right now with our knowledge of science to debunk that one, because and I distinguish between our known universe and a universe beyond our knowledge of universe, because we know that there is still space and matter and time beyond our known universe. We just don't have the ability to see it, test it, observe it, that sort of thing. But we do know that matter cannot be created nor destroyed. So then matter must be eternal. We do understand how matter and antimatter collide with one another, and then 1 out of a billion times, then when that matter antimatter collision happens, the antimatter is kind of done away with and just matter exists. So we've seen that in the Hadron Colliders, but there is no way you can say that the universe is not eternal, since we can't create nor destroy matter. There's no way you can't say it's not eternal, since our universe, our known universe, exists inside what must be another universe, and we don't know how many universes exist beyond that.
Well, true. Like I said, I'm still like reading through the argument, trying to get the full grasp of it, right? But I've watched him have conversation. I think Alex O'Connor refused to debate him, right? Like he was talking about it, and it was like he sent invitations and all of that, and the guy refused.
Did he show the sent invitation and the refusal of the invitation?
And well, of course, there's limited stuff you can show when you're live on TikTok, right?
No.
But of course,
no.
But he has made mention of that severally.
No. So what I'm saying is, I could save let's say I invited somebody to the show and they said no. I can take that, screenshot it, and then put it up on the screen. So to say that so I would challenge, just like when Hebrew Israelites claim that they Israelites, I'm like, okay, show me the DNA. But they don't show me the DNA, then you just talking. So when somebody says that I challenged somebody, but they refused, if you can't show the refusal, then you're just talking. You're just trying to make yourself seem like you so big and bad that people don't want to deal with you.
Well, like I said, I'm not taking his word for it, right? It's not like I'm taking his word. I'm just saying that I've seen many atheists come on the live stream on his TikTok live.
Yeah.
And they announce atheism, like they end up denouncing it, like, okay, well, if we apply all of these axioms of logic together, I mean, I'm holding a position whereby the two premises I hold on to are false. So that means the whole idea of that premise or of that position is actually false too. So why do I have to keep it, right?
Yeah.
So I've seen many atheists actually denounce. In fact, I've not seen any atheists come in on his live and not denounce atheism. Yeah, really.
That's interesting, because as difficult as it is to prove that there are universes inside of universes, because all we can see is our known universe. How would you be able to prove an uncreated God? Even if you were able to disprove the multiverse theory, or disproving nothingness is easy, because there's no such thing as nothingness. That nothingness cannot exist within our known understanding of the universe. But at the same level, you cannot prove an uncreated God. So you would have to be able to prove that an uncreated God actually exists, because otherwise you're just as theoretical as anything else, except for the fact we have observable evidence that would suggest the theory of universe inside of a universe is valid.
Yeah.
So one of the evidence is the fact that our galaxy is merging with the Andromeda galaxy, right? Well, if we can see that our galaxy, that our universe was created through a singularity explosion, right? Then everything from an explosion goes outward from the explosion, correct?
True. Yeah, correct.
So if another galaxy is intruding upon our galaxy, then that galaxy must have come from some other explosion at a different point in order to create the movement of that galaxy in that direction. So then there must have been another singularity that happened that created its own universe, as the people in the Andromeda galaxy would see it as their own galaxy. So those are some of that's like one of the observable things that we can see that supports the idea of multiple singularities that causes what we call a universe. And the distinction is between a universe and the universe. There really isn't the universe in the sense of one, but just multiple universes within universes.
That's right.
But an uncreated God, how does he prove an uncreated God? That's just saying that. Well, I'm only giving you 3 choices, but they might be 10.
Well, again, I think the idea is, I think he used his idea around the fine-tune. It's not a fine-tune argument, but I think it looks like the fine-tune argument at the end of the day. He built his idea around like analytic modality, right? Of course, like using more of logic and like the axioms of logic to build his ideology around it. Well, I would just suggest maybe you can look up the page and you could maybe get a full grasp of.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. I'm not trying to hold you to being able to explain his point of view, but you have to be able to explain yours. Like, if you're going to support somebody, you got to be able to explain their point of view as if it is your point of view. So you got to be able to back it up.
Well, again, we are all product of other people's point of view, right? What we hold on to today as maybe evolution or evolution or whatever field of study we find ourselves, right? With someone else's discovery, someone else's viewpoint, they've put out there with sufficient evidence, and we embrace it, right? So I'm not ashamed to like say, okay, I think what he's saying, I feel it makes sense, right? And I think, okay, I can read more about it and have a full grasp of it so that I can be able to present it properly to someone else.
Well, so, and you also want to do it. You also want to look at it.
You say what?
You also want to look at it unbiasedly, so that you can, so that when you read or study the counter to it, that you are actually saying, I'm going to critically think through both sides of the argument to see which one makes sense. Because otherwise, you're right. You or anyone else would just be taking someone's side that appeals to you, which is a very and it's a difficult thing. It's a process that took me years, to develop, because we generally, the human consciousness is generally to accept authorities, accept what is said by someone that we've given authority to, instead of challenging that authority. So
I think he just came live now on TikTok. It's not live. I think he just came online. So I shared the live to him. Maybe but I think he doesn't want to debate people on their platforms. I think he wants to debate people on a more neutral ground, right? More like on a neutral, maybe on someone else's show, but not on your TikTok live or something. He feels he's going to be more neutral and more open to have this conversation, and
I don't know. I've never received an invite from anybody to debate them on their show, so I don't even really. So if it happens, it happens. I don't really go running around trying to get on other people's channel.
I would really love to see you do something like. I would really love to see how you approach the argument differently, because I've seen many come and try, right? So maybe I don't know. Maybe. Okay, I think he's here now.
Oh, I see it. I'll debate anyone on earth on a neutral site, or we can have a informal conversation on my page. What's the difference between having an informal conversation on your page and having an informal conversation on someone else's page? That doesn't make sense to me, right? It shouldn't matter. If you want to have a conversation with someone, then just go onto their page and have the conversation. Oh, he said he doesn't trust me. Okay, I mean, you don't know me, so I can understand not trusting me, because I don't know him, so why would I trust him? But it is what it is. I hear people you know, I scroll past. I never really stop at people's pages where they're having lives, where they're seeking to debate people. One, I just don't have time for all that. And what do you say? So we can do a neutral site. You won't. I don't care if somebody. I went onto other people's pages and sites when I was invited to do so. I don't seek that out. But you know, if you got one, sure. If you got a neutral site, fine. Let me know. I don't care. I don't mind. You know. And
yeah, I think there's also a $10,000 bets if you can disprove it.
A what?
$10,000
to disprove what?
If you can disprove the Elliott trichotomy.
Well, if you can disprove that an uncreated God exists,
yes.
No, that's a sucker bet because nobody can prove an uncreated God exists or don't exist. So that's a sucker bet.
No, but it becomes a necessary option, right? If the other two positions are false.
Yeah, but you're not proving.
It's okay.
The nothingness, I would agree, is a false statement. And if anything, the God of the Bible is creating out of nothingness, right? But well, people think the God of the Bible is creating out of nothingness, but in actuality, the Hebrew reading of Genesis, he's not creating out of nothingness. He's creating out of material that was already there. He just began to create out of that material that was there. So really, Christians shouldn't believe, or Abrahamic shouldn't believe that God created out of nothingness. Now, as far as the multiversal spectrum, there's enough observation to support that theory. But at the end of the day, it's still going to be a theory because we can't see beyond our known universe. It's just things that we can test within our universe that supports the theory. When it comes to an uncreated God, though, as much as you can claim that for any God and any religion.
That's right.
So, but you can't prove it either way. So that's why I say it's a sucker bet, because no one is going to be able to prove a God or disprove that a God exists, an uncreated God. Now, if you are specific to a Bible God, any of the Abrahamic gods, or a Hindu God, or all of those, then those you can demonstrate are just man-made creations.
Yeah.
No. It's kind of a sucker bet.
Yeah, he's not like the beating that the Bible God. It's the creator of the universe, or the one that controls how the universe works, right? What he's just simply saying is that there is a God, there is an uncreated creator, and that's his argument. He's not talking about the Bible God or the God of the Hindus and all that, So
you can't prove it, disprove. Yeah, that's you can't. That's just as provable as anything else. So you can't prove it, you can't disprove it. So he's not going to get a huge argument from me on that one, other than the fact of it cannot be proven, nor can it be unproven. It's just a matter of philosophy at that point, or dogma. But as far as what we've observed in the universe, we can demonstrate more information. And that's what I'm saying. We can demonstrate more evidence to support the theory of an eternal universe than we can to demonstrate a created or uncreated God. Because that goes into philosophy.
Well, that's all good then. I would let me just quickly go attend to something. Thanks for having me.
No problem.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll be here often.
Okay, appreciate it.
Yeah, bye.
Bye. For those of you who are on Facebook and YouTube, the person that he was talking about, the Elliott guy, he came on to the comments of the page. And I get it. He got that is a good argument that you can have repeated conversations about that can make your page grow. Business wise, it's a good thing. It's a brilliant thing to discuss. But when you leave people with the limitation, and that's the problem with the argument, is that you're leaving people with the limitation of it can only be these three things. Our knowledge of the universe is so tiny that to only leave three options is disingenuous at best, because who says that there's only three options? That's the part of it that doesn't that I would have issue with when you say that there's only 3 options. Somebody asked a question up here. What are your thoughts on the Ethiopian Bible? It's just like any other canon of Bible. Is based on the history and the politics of what created that Bible. And the politics and history that created the Ethiopian Bible is simply that Ethiopia, being never conquered by the Romans, had the opportunity to create their own Bible, their own canon, based on Frumentius coming and converting King Khazana into Christianity. And so when he did, this is before the Bible canonization process happened. And that would mean that they had access to be able to add in 88 books instead of 66 books. But it's just as unbelievable as any other Bible. Even though I'm kind of done with this guy. What is your conclusion? You live and die. So you just live for the purpose of confuse as many people as you possibly can. You see, that is what Christians or Bible believers or religious believers think. One, my purpose in life, this is probably in the low tier of my purpose of life. My primary purpose of life is the people that I am surrounded by, that I love. To make their life greater, to make my life greater. My purpose is to make my life as great as I possibly can make it, as peaceful and happy as I can possibly make it. This page is an outgrowth of me making sure that there are videos for my children and grandchildren, whenever I have them, to be able to have the knowledge that I had, so they can develop their own level of wisdom, so that they critically think through things. So yes, people create their own purpose. You can create your own purpose. There's no reason you cannot. But if your purpose is created based on the belief in some invisible God, then you're just a sheep. You're just sheep at that level. Like my man said, you're just influenced by something that you were able to gravitate towards. That's all it is. You've taken on something you gave authority to, and now you are influenced by that authority. Because I guarantee if you was born and raised in Saudi Arabia, there's absolutely no way you will be claiming that Yahuwah, as you call it, Yahuwah came to you. You'd be like, well, you probably wouldn't say Muhammad came to you, because they probably kill your ass for saying that. But you wouldn't be proclaiming Christianity if you was born in Saudi Arabia. I guarantee that one. So just because I wasn't raised in religion, you're surrounded by religion, constantly surrounded by religion. But anyway, you're just a keyboard warrior anyway. I dare you to come on the channel. Reverse psychology. I dare you to come up. So Ty is saying that he really liked to get into this book since Ethiopia was never colonized and wasn't pursued to submit by Roman Catholic tyranny or European oligarchs. This is somewhat true. You have to go back and look at, why did King Azana allow for Christianity to come into Aksum? And it was the Aksum Empire at the time, or Aksum. And the reason why he did it is because he wanted to have better trade relations with Rome. Christianity came into Ethiopia purely for political reasons of having peace, more of trying to have peace between Aksum and Rome. So there is political pressure as to why Ethiopia developed a Christian identity. Now, it took a few hundred years for that identity to really grow. But if you go to Ethiopia today, Ethiopia is not running around as this big ass Christian nation. It's mostly Muslim in Ethiopia and not Christian, right? But they do have freedoms to be able to practice Christianity there. Now, as far as the books are concerned, some of the books that are in the Ethiopian Bible will creates even more contradictions to the canonized Bible. So like the Ethiopian Bible will have the story of Noah's flood, right? Based on Genesis, but it's also going to have the books of Enoch, First Enoch in there. Well, there's a problem, but because according to First Enoch, the giant Og was tied to the mast of the ark and was able to survive. Well, that would be in direct contradiction to the book of Genesis and its story of how everyone died except for Noah and his 3 sons and all of their wives. So that's a problem. It does allow for the reintroduction of giants, but then you would have to say that Og then had sex with either Noah's wife or one of his sons' wives, which would be committing adultery, which is outside of the realm of righteousness. So having those 88 books is really more problematic than not. Black people are just gravitating towards it because it gives them some sense of Christian pride. Say Ethiopia is 60% Christian. I'm gonna have to look that up. Not that I don't trust you, Remy. I'm gonna have to look that one up. Matter of fact, I'm looking at it right now. I don't mind, and that's the thing about difference between me and other folks. I don't mind being wrong. Because every time I'm wrong, I learn something new. Oh, nope. Yep, he's right. So I said the majority of Christianity, majority are Muslims in Ethiopia, but he was right. Somewhere between 61 to 67% of Ethiopian population is Christian, making it the largest group. The population is primarily composed of Ethiopian Orthodox I can never say that word right. 43 to 50%, and Protestants are the fastest growing group in there, and the smallest group is Catholic. So Ethiopia is mostly Christian. I correct myself. Back in 2007, it was at 62%. Oh, so it's just been growing a lot since my youth in Christianity. So what was I thinking? Maybe I was thinking about Tanzania or some shit like that. I don't know. But I don't mind being corrected. So thank you. Remy.
Yeah, hi.
How you doing, Remy? Thank you for the correction.
It's all right. But then obviously, religion in Ethiopia has been kind of complex in the last 50 years because they had a period in time where Christianity was technically banned during the Derg. But these communist socialists took over Ethiopia in the 1970s.
Who did? Who took it over?
They were from there's this socialist government military junta who took over Ethiopia. They were called the Derg, the DERG. And they banned Christianity, which was the state religion of Ethiopian Aksum and all those places. So, I think in the 1950s it was 70% Christian.
Okay.
And then, in the 80s, the Derg government used to say that, Ethiopia is only 20% Christian. Everybody's an atheist now.
Okay.
But then Christianity's been having a revival since the fall of communism. But then the flavor of Christianity that's taking over now is Protestantism, not Orthodoxy.
Yeah, that's what I just read, that Protestantism is the fastest growing sect of Christianity in Ethiopia.
Yeah.
And maybe my mindset it was back in, because the 80s was a big time for me challenging this religion, and then of course the 90s even more so. But I've always just accepted that they weren't overwhelmingly Christian, but I don't mind being wrong. I see that in today's world they are more Christian.
According to the government's propaganda in the 1980s, that would have been true.
Right.
That Christianity is a minority religion. But I think in actual fact, people are just scared to speak out and say, hey, I'm a Christian, I'm this or that, because, the atheist government, the state atheist government would have been trying to clamp down on that.
So let me ask you a question, since you know a lot more about Ethiopia, internal Ethiopia than I do. Do you remember some years ago, maybe 5-7 years ago, when there was some type of civil issue in Ethiopia and 80 people came and stood in front of the church where supposedly the Ark of the Covenant is, and those 80 people were mowed down by the military, right? Two questions. Who was mowing them down, and why, and what happened after that? Were those military people like put in jail or punished?
In the last 10 to 15 years, Ethiopia's had a lot of like low-grade civil conflicts, right? Between the different ethnic groups, the Amharas, the Tigrayans, and the Oromos, right? So there's like a power struggle between these three groups. This is more like Ethiopia has like 100 ethnicities, but these are the three who keep going at each other.
Okay.
So this is also mixed in with like the repressive government, So some people, they try to like rally around like the Ark of the Covenant, and then either government forces or militias try to like, take them out.
Oh, right. Because I never heard anything else after those people got mowed down. Like, no one said if they went into the church and discovered that there was a covenant, that the ark was in there or the ark wasn't in there. It doesn't say, I didn't see anything say they entered the church. Certainly, if you mow down these people,
nobody's allowed in.
I understand
nobody's allowed in anyway.
But if I'm a militia and I showed up to this church, 80 people come and protest. If I mow them down, what's to stop me from going inside the church? Like, is that information that's been like covered up?
It's like whoever holds the Ark of the Covenant. Well, imagine like if somebody has it, then they can get a lot of people to rally around it, right?
Yeah. That's what I'm getting at.
Even during.
Go ahead.
So like, it's kind of complex in Ethiopian politics. I'm Kenyan, but then I have a lot of people from Ethiopia being there once. So like, from what I understand is that they want to like keep people away from it, because if they have it, if they control it, or they control the monks around it, then that gives them power. It gives them legitimacy.
Right.
Although the current president of Ethiopia doesn't really care that much about like the Ark of the Covenant or any of these traditional things, because he's actually a Protestant.
Okay. But do you understand what I'm saying though? So let me put it in like this.
Yeah.
So when I was in the Marine Corps and I went to Desert Storm, right? There were holy sites in Iraq, holy sites in Kuwait. After we came and we like took over, we didn't care if you had previous ministers or monks or priests or imams who said, oh, you can't go inside this mosque. We just went in anyway, because we just shot all y'all, or we just kicked y'all ass. So there was some monk or some priest saying, oh, you can't go in. That's not going to stop somebody who came there specifically to go there, mow down the people, but then not go in. You see how that don't make sense?
I have to think about the mentality of these Ethiopians themselves, right? Almost everybody, like to an extent, is religious. Even the Muslims, right, revere the Ark of the Covenant, right? That's where the 10 Commandments of Musa are, right? If you're an Orthodox Christian, even more. If you're Protestant, even like everybody cares about it to like an extent,
right?
So whether you're the guys who are mowing people down or you're the protesters trying to get to it, like everybody cares. Everybody thinks it's sacred.
Gotcha. Then what was the purpose of going?
Like I said, it's like a symbol, right? Like we're gonna rally around, because this happened during the Italian occupation during WW2, right? That where Ethiopians rallied around the Ark of the Covenant.
No, this is happening like a few years ago.
Yeah, of course, but like there's a precedent for this in Ethiopian history.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Like it's, I don't know how to like explain it in like an American context. It's like, the Declaration of Independence, the paper, right? Which is somewhere like in DC, right?
Yep.
So imagine people from Texas saying that, we stand for America, we love America so much, right? So we're gonna like do a pilgrimage to go see this paper.
Right.
And then you have like their opposition from like, I don't know, Connecticut or somewhere saying, you don't get to claim the, you know, Declaration of Independence. Only we're the real Americans.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm what you're saying.
Yeah.
So they would still have reverence for the document and wouldn't go in there and destroy the document. Kind of like when the insurrection happened in 2006. Was that 2006 or 2009? And they rolled up in there, even though they defiled the Congress, the House of Congress, they still didn't like destroy what American nationalists would consider holy relics. I get what you're saying. So even if they,
so it's okay.
Yeah, and I have some of my numbers wrong. So it happened in 2020, and they killed between 750 and 800 people who was at the Church of Our Lady Mary of Zion in Oxum. But yeah, it said that locals believe that they were trying to steal the Ark of the Covenant. So that's just a local thought process. So we don't really know why they showed up at that church.
Yeah, but what I can tell you from, you know, as a person,
but I get what you're saying.
Yeah, in this environment, right, is that everybody reveres it.
Gotcha. I'm with you.
It's like, as bad as say, like,
you know what?
You were in the Gulf,
Wait a
right?
minute. Yes, I was, but I just realized something. If I'm distinguishing what's happened based on this part of this article, based on my military career as well, this was during and you can correct me, but the Tigray, is that how you say it? Tigray War?
Yeah.
During the Tigray War, there were soldiers in the vicinity of the church. So they weren't necessarily going towards the church, looking to go to the church, but that because they was in the vicinity, local worshipers gathered and formed a human shield to protect the relic. And then they saw all the people gathering, and militarily you would think 750, 800 people. Oh, hell no, we got to take them out. Not thinking that they were gathering there, thinking that we was going to attack the church. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
So the military guys probably weren't going there to attack the church. They just happened to be near. But then once the people organized, they're looking at it from a perspective of, oh, these are rebels against us, so let's go take those rebels out.
Yeah.
I can see it happening that way. And that's why there's no entrance into the church and so on and so forth. Okay. That would make sense. That would make sense to me, because like if there was a war in America right now, nobody would probably destroy DC. You know, if everybody still believes that they are the right side of America, you know, they would probably like, oh, well, we gonna kick y'all ass, but we're not gonna go and destroy the different monuments and the documents in the, you know, nation's capital, because we all think that we're right in what we're doing, and we think that we are the true Americans. So I can see it from that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I've been wondering about that ever since I read that story, which obviously was 6 years ago. Now it all makes me even more sense to me. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
You got anything else?
But like, I wanted to address the prompt like you had over here.
Okay.
Like, did the Torah actually happen?
Yep.
I think the later parts of like of the list you put here, like David's, Solomon's kingdom, right?
Uh-huh.
We have some evidence that a kingdom of Israel existed way back when, right?
What's the
and
evidence?
then those kings used to claim some dude called David was their ancestor.
Right.
So clearly, you know, the kingdom didn't come from nothing, right? So it had to have a founder, right? So I think David and Solomon are more historical, but then the accounts that we have before, you know, the David and the first temple, that's where like folklore and like oral tradition come in.
Right. So I'm with you, but I'm not with you. I'm with you that kings always claim some ancient kingdom. There was, you know, British kings claiming to come from King Arthur. There are Prussian kings who claim to come from Charlemagne, and French kings who claim that they came from Charlemagne, but there's no evidence of it. Did somebody named Arthur possibly exist? Maybe. Did somebody named Charlemagne exist? More than likely. Did somebody named David exist? It's possible. But most critical scholars think that David existed as just a leader of a war band, right? Not so much a leader of a nation, but a guy who led a bunch of people. They were doing some conquering and some fighting during the time frame after the Bronze Age collapse, or actually during the Bronze Age collapse, when everything was a mess over there. And these kings who finally established themselves, like Hezekiah, then says that, oh, I come from King David, and David had this whole big united kingdom of Israel, and it was glorious and all these sorts of things to prompt themselves up. So if David did exist, which the critical scholars who do think David existed only think that he existed as like a tribal leader, not a king over this united Israelite kingdom as described, which would lend into the exaggerations that you were saying that people then make about the stories. Agree? Are we on the same track?
Yeah, I agree with you, but then I actually do think more that, because obviously if you follow the narrative presented in the Old Testament, right, you have these 12 tribes. They're literally called tribes, right?
Yep.
And then they're trying to like get together because they keep getting their ass whooped by the Philistines, the Assyrians. Everybody's just kicking them.
Yeah.
Right? And then they're like, okay, we need like a centralized leader. They pick this guy called Saul. Doesn't really work out. And then on the second try, this guy David, he kind of stabilizes things. Right.
Right.
But then when we're talking about like later kingdoms, that definitely happens way later with like Hezekiah.
Yeah. Agree. That's why I didn't put Hezekiah up there.
I do think that there is some real history there.
I think there's some real history with Hezekiah, yes. I think there might be some real history that they did kind of get behind some guy named David or Solomon. And they get behind some guy named David. They were able to at least establish some level of a foothold. And then he had his kid Solomon, and then, on down the line until they actually grew into a kingdom. I'm just saying that David didn't establish a kingdom in the unified Israel that they state in the Bible. Because as far as Saul and David is concerned, all of northern Israel and all of Judea was all one kingdom. But there's no archaeology that demonstrates that. So like you were saying that they attach themselves to this person, but then the narratives become something that's more of poetic license.
Yeah.
And that's that's my thought process on the Kingdom of David, because the Mesha, is it the Mesha? No, the Mesha still is. I forgot which stela it is that says that this king defeated the house of David. But house of David doesn't necessarily mean a kingdom. It could mean a tribe or a grouping, or it could just mean a dude who's very powerful within a kingdom. Like we can have right now the house of Bill Gates.
But then where I think the transition started is maybe with Solomon, because Solomon's like the most important thing he ever does, right, is build a temple in one city. Right. So like you have a centralization of power. And then it's within the first temple period is when like, they start writing down the Torah. Because before then it's oral. Right? So yeah. I think it's mostly about like Solomon and his like power center in Jerusalem. Like that's where the real story of the kingdom starts, as
I think it could have started there. Like if Solomon, and with the building of the temple, I would say that Solomon may have created a powerful city-state of Jerusalem, but as far as controlling all that area within the Levant, probably not. But did create that city-state, and that city-state was stable and was able to survive. And then slowly over time, until we get to Hezekiah, the kingdom, it grew. Of course, at some point there was a split between the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah. But I can say I will agree that Solomon, if he existed, probably established the city state of Jerusalem, because in that time frame, establishing there were many, that was the primary way of building your kingdom, was you started from a city state, and then over time you grew from that.
Yeah. But then also, like, Solomon is basically this guy who starts collecting stuff, right? That's where the Psalms are collected.
Yeah.
Right. So you have this idea of a guy writing like these stories down in like one lifetime. Because I think it's Solomon who kind of puts together the stories that these people have been telling themselves. Like, hey, you know, we were the underclass in Egypt. We were, you know, under these Philistines, right? We used to be like desert nomads. Then, you know, God came through for us. So
yeah,
that collection of stories, I think, starts happening in Solomon's time. And then you have the priests who are like, okay,
I think
they
that
start to figure out like an order to this thing.
Yeah, I would agree that Solomon probably did initiate the bringing together of these oral traditions. But yeah, he brought, I would agree that during his time frame, which would have been around in the 800s BCE, would have been bringing these stories together, maybe even in the 900s, but would have been bringing these stories together as an oral tradition. And there may have been multiple, you know, hundreds of different scrolls. And it is not until we get into Hezekiah and Josiah that they start to whittle these things down to kind of solidify the story, you know, because that's when we first see the stories being somewhat canonized, is during Hezekiah and Josiah's time frame. But obviously the stories were already there for them to be able to do that. And yeah, Solomon probably would have been the earliest time frame that you can think that would have happened, that they started being brought in, all the stories. But my argument is the size of the kingdom and the importance and the power of the kingdom. That's my argument as far as Solomon and David are concerned.
I'm a believer, but I tend to lean on the more rationalist side of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that even before you have that Solomon, right, the historical Solomon, you know, doing things like, you know, setting up a city-state, you know, starting the temple up, you know, gathering these stories,
mm-hmm.
You still had like a tradition of believers in the desert, right?
Yeah.
And then you had this lawgiver of these tribes called Moses, right? Like,
yeah. Now the Moses part is completely made up, though.
Tribes would even have a common law unless like there was a lawgiver.
Well, no. You didn't have to necessarily have a, I mean, the lawgiver of Moses is a fictional character. But having similar oral traditional stories is possible, since they all came out of the Canaanite religion, and they all would have also known the stories of Sargon, and they would have known, you know, what about Hammurabi and all that sorts of thing. So creating a lawgiver, it was a common theme in their time frame. So of course, if they're creating their own identification, then they're going to create their own version of a lawgiver and put a backstory to it. But as far as Moses existing, nah, he never existed.
Like some of the more mystical stuff might have not happened, right? Like maybe the burning bush was a dream, who knows, right? But I want to like understand why these 12 tribes would even ever come together, right? Because clearly something brought them together, like a George Washington or something like that.
I mean, something could have brought them together, but it doesn't necessarily have to be them. It could not have been Moses, because the Moses story would have had to have happened somewhere between 1400 BCE to 1200 BCE. But we know that Egypt controlled the entire Levant during that time frame. So it would have been impossible for that story to happen. Now, we can have a common idea that brings people together, and a multitude of persons who would bring those people together. So like here in America, you had 13 separate colonies who had very different cultures, within those 13 different colonies, but it was what they deemed as overtaxation by England as to the mechanism that brought them together. And then you had multiple people who decided, we're going to do this Declaration of Independence, we're going to galvanize the people, and we're going to start this revolution. And then that is what created the unification of the 13 colonies. So the same can be said. So you can apply that to these different tribes. That a common theme of getting their ass, the world is in shambles right now. You don't know who's going to kill you because everybody's fighting for territory. We all come from this Canaanite religion, worshiping Yahweh. Let's gather together and band together as a unified force in order for us to maintain our own safety and sovereignty. Because the Moabites also worship Yahweh, the Shashu worship Yahweh, these Canaanite groups worship Yahweh.
The difference between with the Moabites is that the Moabites aren't monotheistic, they're polytheists, right? So what made these specific Canaanites rally around only one God, right?
Well,
that's a mystery.
No, it's not a mystery, because the Israelites themselves at that time frame were not monotheistic. They were polytheistic as well. Yeah. But understand the difference. And I shouldn't say we shouldn't use the term polytheistic or monotheistic when referring to those people at that time frame. We should be using the term, they were all I can't think of the term, but they believed that other gods existed, but they were to worship their God. What is that? It's not.
I think that's henotheism.
Henotheistic. Thank you. So they were henotheistic at the time frame. The Israelites were henotheistic. They believed Baal existed. They believed all the other gods existed, but they believed that they were to worship their one God. Yahweh doesn't become monotheism. Really doesn't hit the Israelite people until somewhere between the 500s and 200s BCE. That's when they become monotheistic, after they were under Persian control.
Yeah. But like, are you saying that there's no possibility, like there was a charismatic preacher who was trying to preach, the message of this one guy? He's good. He's actually who we should devote ourselves to, not Baal, not Ishtar, not any of these, just this one.
No, I'm saying that's exactly what they believe. But they believed that even before Hezekiah and Solomon and all that sort of thing. They believe that, hey, there's all these other gods out here, and that's what henotheism is. I believe all these other gods in here, but we have to dedicate ourselves to this God, because this is our God. Which is why they wrote the breakdown of El Elyon giving out portions to the different gods. And Yahweh didn't get land like the other guys did. He got the Israelite people. So they obviously were believing in all the other gods, and how all the other guys, El Elyon, the Most High, gave all these other guys their portions. And Yahweh's portion was the Israelites.
Sure. But what I lean to is that amongst all these like deities and these people believe in different things, there was a charismatic preacher in the desert when these guys are just wandering about the Levant and Sinai, getting their asses handed to them by the Philistines, right? They kind of developed like in the academic way, a cult, right, of belief around, this version of El, called, Yah, right?
And
and it worked out for them.
Yeah, I can agree to that. That somewhere during the Bronze Age collapse, or actually before the Bronze Age collapse, that somewhere in the 1200s BCE, that there was some charismatic leader that convinced a bunch of Canaanites to go into the desert, become a wandering nomad of people who worship Yahweh. And that is pretty much what is described in the Menetha Stela of how they destroyed this wandering group of Israelites who were worshiping Yahweh. Now, if you call it now, and if there was a charismatic leader, I can see how they utilized that person to create the Moses narrative. And then, but all that stuff that they created was not true. So They didn't leave Egypt as far as by the Nile, Egypt. They left the controlled area of Egypt in the Levant under the Canaanites. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there was no wandering around the
obviously
Sinai.
The cities were controlled by the Egyptians, right?
Yeah.
But then if you're somewhere in the Sinai, in the Negev desert, right, the Pharaoh's control is kind of like limited.
Yeah. It's very limited. It's kind of like, even right now, I don't know what country you live in. Kenya?
Yeah, I'm from Kenya.
Yeah, no, where do you live now?
Yeah, you can.
Oh, well, you said from Kenya, but I know. So
yeah.
I'm sure I don't know how Kenya is ran. I only been to the embassy there, but I'm sure that the cities are governed differently than out in the country. Out in the country, you can live a little bit more free. So I would agree that
you can live free.
When these people, probably sometime in the 1200s, separated themselves from the Canaanites, from the coastal areas, went out into the desert. I think they just went out into the deserts of Israel, of modern day Israel. I don't think they ever went to the Sinai Peninsula. But when they went out into the desert, they were kind of doing their own thing, wandering around, following the herds, but still under Egyptian control, but not as intense because there's no Egyptian soldiers and shit walking around out there in the middle of nowhere, you know. So they kind of felt free, but truly they weren't free, right? I don't know if you know the history, this part of history, but in Brazil, you had these runaway slaves from the coastal areas, and they went out into the jungles of the Amazon, and they established their own towns and pretty much their own kingdom out in the middle of the Amazon. They were able to survive for 60 years before the Portuguese finally expanded out that far. And even though the Portuguese owned all that land already, according to, you know, European rule, but it took 60 years for them to really get that far out before they wanted control of that area as well. And, you know, to put their stamp on it. So for 60 years, these African slaves were able to live in their own kingdom, their own way, but truly they were still under Portugal. So I can see it being that type of situation.
Yeah, something similar happened in Jamaica, right? Like,
yeah,
you know, escaped slaves went into the Blue Mountains, and you know, they became the Maroons. They were just out there until slavery was banned, and then they started trying to reintegrate.
Right. Exactly. So I would agree that there was something that they are basing the story of Moses on. What I'm saying is that the Moses story, the actual Moses story in the Bible, that part is completely falsified. And that is,
I mean, obviously you have a point in the Torah where Moses passes away, and then the story keeps on going. So clearly somebody else wrote that.
Exactly. He dies, but all of a sudden he's still writing. That don't work. Yeah, I'm with you. So,
but then obviously the way that later scholars and prophets explained it was that, you know, you have this guy Joshua, the judge,
yeah,
who's carrying on, you know, Moses's project.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes and like raids cities. He goes, tears down the walls of Jericho.
Right. Which those things, see, now that if that had happened, that would have garnered attention from the Egyptians who were still in control of that land in the 1200s and the 1100s. But as far as the Egyptians are concerned, yeah, they had little raids and people like that they had to try to handle based on the Amarna letters and things of that nature. But they never lost control of all those areas like Jerusalem and Jericho and Ai. They never lost control of those places. They still got taxes from them. So the whole Joshua doing his conquest is just, okay, it's hundreds of years after the fact. We can say what we want to say because there's no one to challenge it. Because who's going to challenge it now that the Egyptians have been, now that the sea people, that's the Phoenicians, I think. But now that these people have kicked out the Egyptians, and not only just kicked them out, but the Egyptians also would have retracted just because of the Bronze Age collapse. All right. Now that this is like the Wild West, there's no Egyptians to challenge us in the 1000s and 900s and 800s BCE to say that this didn't actually happen. You know, we can say it because we want to.
Yeah, I mean, but then, you know, according to the Bible and the narrative in there, that's when you have these judges, right? Mm-hmm. You have these charismatic leaders. You even have a woman, right, leading, you know, these tribes. Well, she's telling them the law, right? Right. And sometimes they listen to her, sometimes they don't.
Yeah, but that just narrative that so you have to create a narrative that leads you up to the current time frame that you're telling these stories in. So you have to, so they're going through this process of having judges and having kings. Well, at that time frame, it would have been kings. So we had judges and now we got kings because, you know, they wanted to do this thing without God. They thought that we need to just judge ourselves. But we have no evidence of any of these people ever existing or this kingdom existing at this time frame. That's the biggest problem. Like, they didn't build the city and we find evidence of the city. They didn't dominate the city and we find evidence that they dominated the city. It's kind of like that underground.
Jericho as a place exists, right? You can go see it.
Yeah, Jericho exists as a place.
Were the walls actually destroyed by, you know, Joshua and his guys specifically, or somebody else?
Somebody else. So evidence has shown that the walls of Jericho were already down prior to the 1500s. That the last time frame that they would have been standing was somewhere around the 16 and 1700s BCE. The walls of Jericho were never rebuilt to the level that is described in Joshua until around 1000 to 900 BCE. Right? So the time frame of Noah and Joshua, those walls weren't there. The city of Ai was uninhabited during the time frame of Moses and Joshua. And I mean, you might have had like a few little, like couple, like 50 people living there, here and there, in and out. It was kind of like just a little way station kind of place. But those cities were they weren't inhabited. And the walls, and like I said, the walls of Jericho weren't even up. They were already down. So they took that fact that the walls had came down hundreds of years prior and added that to their story, that they were the ones who brought the walls down.
Yeah.
And nobody was running around with the type of instrumentation that we have today to be able to evaluate the geology of it and say, nah, bro, them walls were been down before y'all came here. You know, but I'm sure if they did have that kind of technology, they probably would have backdated the story to be when the walls came down. But yeah, there's too much. Go ahead.
Like by the point where you have, like, you know, the first temple is built and the priests are trying to like get the story down in writing, right? They have to explain, okay, why doesn't Jericho have walls anymore?
Yeah.
Joshua raided Jericho, right?
Yeah.
So
that's why we're gonna say the walls fell down. Yeah, that's how legends happen. Like, we have this legend in America, and for my entire childhood, I believe that Johnny Appleseed walked barefoot from like New Hampshire, Maine, all the way to Washington State. Right now, that's like almost 3,000 miles, if not 3,000 miles, and he was planting apple groves the whole way there. Well, the truth of it is that the guy who the story is based on, he had shoes because, you know, he wasn't walking barefoot. He did plant some apple groves, but he never made it past Ohio, which is not even halfway. But in grade school, junior high, even in high school, if it was mentioned, they were saying that he went all the way to Washington State, you know, because Washington State produces a lot of apples. So there's a little bit of truth, but then it's expanded. That's the Joshua story. Joshua may have been some warlord or chieftain, but they expanded the story. There might have been a Moses guy who was with Joshua, who taught Joshua. but then they expand the story, and that's how these stories are. So that's why I'm saying none of them, they didn't actually happen.
I tend to be a little bit more charitable with them, right? But who knows, right? Maybe next week, somebody will open up the Ark of the Covenant in Ethiopia and actually deconstructing, like, what would it take to, like, show you that, these are genuinely the Ten Commandments in there.
Well, if they were okay, so it would have to be an opening of it. There would have to be a huge amount of people there so that it's not biased, because you can't just have a bunch of like Christians or the Orthodox Ethiopians opening, because I wouldn't trust it. All right, so I'm gonna need a bunch of unbiased people there, and then we're gonna have to test it. We need to test what the material is. If the tablets are in there, we need to test when were these tablets created? Because we can test the stone and see if the stone is something recent, or is it 1,000 years old, or is it actually something that's almost 3,000 years old. So the stone's got to be tested to that time frame. The language that's written on there has to be a language from that time frame. We can tell that the etchings on the stone when they were done. So I would have to see, they would have to test that. And then we got to test for some other kind of radiation. Many people think that there are some people who think that it was a gift from aliens and that it's radiation, like it's uranium in there, and that's why people die. But that's not the reason. But we just got to go through all the testing and then the peer review of that testing. And then I would have to just base things on what those results are.
Okay. So if they open it up, they see, it's actually written in Egyptian hieroglyphics because, Moses grew up in Egypt, right?
Mm-hmm.
He spoke Egyptian. So it would make sense that they would be written in Egyptian, right?
No, that would not make sense.
Thing written with Egyptian hieroglyphs.
No, it would need to be written.
10 rules.
It would need to be written in a like Proto-Hebrew or Canaanite. Why would the God of the Bible write? Why would the God of the Bible write in hieroglyphics?
I mean, that was the common writing system of the empire, right? It's like, if God wants to communicate with Americans, he's going to use English, right?
I get what you're saying. Yeah, he would. But let's say but in this instance, this would be like the God of the Bible wanting to communicate with the Chinese in America. He would write in Mandarin. He wouldn't write in English. He'd write in Mandarin, because he would want to write in the language of the people that he's talking to. You see what I'm saying? Like if you move to America and somebody wanted to communicate to you, why would they write to you in English? Shouldn't they write to you in, I don't know what, you probably speak like 7 languages. But yeah, I was going to say Swahili, but I'm jealous of how many languages other people speak. But it will be written in Swahili, right? If they really wanted to connect with you, if it was the God of Kenya wanted to talk to you, he's going to write in Swahili. He's not going to write in English. So in hieroglyphics, no, it would have to be in like the old Proto-Israelite, or I would even take cuneiform. I would take cuneiform over that, because cuneiform was more of the popular language in the Middle East during that time frame, in that part of the Levant.
I see. So it would be more like an Assyrian document.
Yeah, more of that Proto-Hebrew, Assyrian cuneiform style of writing is what it would have to be, because cuneiform was still being heavily used during that time frame in that region. So I would take cuneiform, but if it's Egyptian hieroglyphics, I'm like, oh hell no, that's fake as hell. Yeah, it would have to be written that way. And then you got parts of it made out of acacia wood. We can test the shit out of wood to see about the time frame of that. So I would have to see that kind of testing. But yeah, it would take all that, and it can't be done by a religious organization.
So you wouldn't accept that the Orthodox Church of Ethiopia does like this, or the Vatican, like they're out of the picture?
Oh, if they did it?
Oh, if they
Yeah, no. We got to have independent research has to be done. Because it's just like, so like when I went to the Vatican, of course, because they want to protect their religion, they got so much shit that they don't allow people to see. They got just as much as they have places that you can go into, they have more places that you can't go into. Same thing in Egypt. You're close to Egypt. Go to Egypt and try to go under the left, go into that entryway under the left paw of the Sphinx. You might get shot. They ain't letting you in there. You know, governments and people hide shit.
Been to Alexandria, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they say they can't find Alexander the Great's tomb. It's
Right.
gone. Could be anywhere.
And you know what else is crazy about Alexandria? There are major portions of the city that are underwater, but they will not let aqua archaeologists go and dive there. They don't want to let them do it. They are so desperate to protect their more Arabic history in Egypt that they don't want other information besides that would disrupt that. They don't want that information to come out. So no,
yeah, obviously they have like a narrative to keep, it's
exactly
Arab Egyptian Republic.
Yeah, and the Tawidah Church does too. You got all these people who just believe that it's in there. They have no proof, so they're not going to let anybody in there to prove it otherwise, one way or another. And to me, the fact that you don't let somebody in there just tells me that you don't have it.
Yeah. But then the monks genuinely believe that if anybody tries to go near it, they're gonna pass away. Right? So
the one on the outside may actually believe that. I think the ones on the inside know the truth that there's nothing in there. I put it this way: when you're a part of a powerful organization, it becomes more important for you to keep the belief than it is to give the people the truth. And so even though you may know the truth, you know that you cannot let that truth be known because of the damage it would do to the belief and to the organization. So I think the monks who can actually go inside, they know what's in there or what's not in there. And I think they know it's not in there. And they will die knowing that. They will never tell anybody because they know it's not worth the risk, right? Like there are certain things that the Vatican holds that they know will damage Catholicism. So it is just agreed upon. We'd rather keep what we got than to tell the truth and not know what may actually happen. And governments do the same thing. There's some shit that happened. There's some things that happened that I know of while I was in the Marine Corps that the media got a totally different story because the damage of the truth is far greater than the lie that was told. Like, there's some shit that happened that would have put us in World War III.
I've heard things, and like recently there was this dossier that came out about like some village being taken out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they came out like 20 years too late, is what the report said. And it's just one village.
Right. It's all thing. There are so many cover-ups throughout history and sometimes it's good that things are covered up, sometimes it's not. Imagine, if you will. Do you remember when I don't know, how old are you? How old are you?
I'm 27.
Oh shit, you young. Damn, you got an old man voice. You sound 50. But so if you go research it, around the time frame that you were born, the leader of Israel was assassinated, right?
Isaac Rabin.
Rabin, exactly. Yeah, that dude. Let's just, let's do a Marvel what if. What if America or England or France were the actual ones who assassinated him and not the little Israeli guy they pinned it on? And if it came out that America did it, what would happen in the world if that information was known back in, what was that, like 94, 95? How much disruption would that have caused? If America told everybody, we assassinated a world leader. Oh, an important world leader.
Caused a bit of upheaval, especially like loss of trust with the
right.
With the guys who are on the fence, because obviously there's some ride or dies, right?
Yeah.
The UK, England's always gonna ride or die with like the US regardless.
Exactly. And back then, America still had enough influence over Israel to stop them from just going and attacking everybody that they wanted to attack. So if that had happened, then all the chains are off. Kind of like how they are right now with Israel, where they just, we gonna shoot some shit whether we want to. We're gonna give a damn what y'all say. But that would have put the world in a very precarious situation. So if something like that happens, of course, the world governments are going to cover that up. You know, if many people believe that AIDS was created by man and then tested on Africans in order to see what it would do, thinking they were developing a biological weapon, but then it got out of control and affected the world in the way that it has. What if we found out that that was true, that the World Health Organization actually did that? You see what I'm saying? So that's where I'm going with it.
Yeah.
These churches, these organizations, they're not going to tell you whether or not there's an ark in there. And other people claim they have the ark. The Knights Templars are supposed to have had the ark, and it's at Rosslyn Chapel, you know. And then it moved from Rosslyn Chapel and it's somewhere in America. You know, there's all these little things and stories about where these things are. The truth we probably will never know in our lifetime. I hope we do. I would want to know. But it would destroy that religion. It would almost destroy that religion. If they found out that the Ark of the Covenant wasn't inside that church, now you have gored the root of the, how you say it, Tawedo. You have gored their religious belief, because it's based on Solomon offering it to Menelik the first. And one version of the story says Menelik took it. The other version says he didn't take it, but some of his friends took it and brought it there. So now you got to question, well, is the whole thing about Menelik the first true? Did Sheba actually come from Oxium, or did she come from modern day Yemen or Saudi Arabia? So it could, for a thinking person, you're going to have a mass exodus from that religion if you allow for that to come out. And it's not worth their risk. They're not going to risk that.
I mean, obviously there's also like a financial incentive, right?
Yeah.
Like, the way things are, people make pilgrimages to, you know, the city to, like, you know, just help out the monks, help out the church.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a vested interest not to open it, right?
Yep.
In case they're wrong.
Exactly.
But then again, like, you still have to explain, like, okay, so sometime before the Babylonians, like, took over, like, you know, Jerusalem, because when the Babylonians got into the temple, there was no tablets. There's nothing in the temple.
Right.
So what happened between the time of the Babylonians and Solomon? Like, that's a big question mark. Like, where did the tablets go? Like, where did the ark go?
Yeah. I mean, there are some Jewish teachings that when the Babylonians came in, they smuggled it out through the tunnels that were underneath the temple. And so it's been kept secret by some cabal of Israelites who are just keeping it secret until the third temple is built, right? So it's in hiding somewhere. You have a similar story with the Knights Templars, that they found it and they smuggled it out. But that's the Hebrew version of mysticism in that one, is that they smuggled it out and it'll reappear when the third temple is built. And I think it will reappear when the third temple is built. And guess what? They ain't gonna let nobody test it to see that it's just some fabrication. Because if I'm building the third temple, I'm damn sure gonna fabricate that thing.
I doubt they'll ever build a third temple.
It would. Yeah, that's a major war that happens in order for them to build it. If there's a it would have to be a major war against the Muslim countries that Israel would feel confident enough to destroy the Dome of the Rock and build the temple there. Or if they ever decide to destroy the Dome of the Rock and build the temple there, it's going to create that major war. And whether or not Israel thinks that they can get like NATO support and all that sort of thing will determine whether or not they ever do it. I hope that they never build it, just for the sake of how many people are going to die because of it. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it's how many Americans are going to die because we're supporting Israel in this fight against all the Arab nations? How many Arabs are going to die because they're fighting against Israel for doing this, what they would consider a desecration? You know, how many people from all over the world just going to die? Because that would be a World War III event. So that's my reason for I don't want it to ever be built. You know, I don't want World War III.
That's true, right? Like the blowback would just be too big, and then like if anything will ever unite, like all the Muslims, not just the Arabs, all the Muslims in the world, it would be that.
It would. Yeah, I mean,
and then also I think on the Israeli side, like they can't necessarily agree on which sect of Judaism's, like, because they all have different plans about like how they're going to do the third temple. So even amongst themselves, they can't agree. Like, okay, like how are we going to do this? Like, are we going to have sacrifices? No sacrifices? Like,
oh yeah. And I think that you know, it was doing the red heifer thing for like 3 years. I think that was just a big tease, just to keep the people, you know, to create a hope for them, get them all excited, and then let it all fade away, and then we can do the red heifer thing in like 7 years from now, you know, just to make them think it's going to happen, just to give them hope. But yeah, the blowback would be crazy, which is why I don't want it to happen. It can't happen. No. Let my son get out of the Air Force first.
oh, he's in the Air Force.
Yeah. Even though he's in a non-combatant job, I don't give a damn. I don't even want him in the area. Because you're not even fighting because somebody attacked your country. You're fighting because of some religious belief that a stone, a piece of ground has significance. It doesn't. The Dome of the Rock has no significance. The temple has no significance. That hill that is built on has no significance. It only has significance because we've given it significance. And it's that's the dumbest reason to fight a war. Go ahead.
I don't know, because in my opinion, it's like that's what makes it all the more significant, is that people are willing to, stake their lives on it. Right.
So
because a lot of people genuinely believe that when the end times come, Jesus is going to show up in that spot.
So it's worth people dying for? Like people who ain't got shit to do with it, is worth them dying for it?
I think they actually want to live for it, right? This is all they live for.
Yeah, but
right?
But my son is not, he doesn't follow Christianity, he doesn't follow Islam. Is it worth his life for this piece of ground?
I mean, no, I don't think it's worth his life.
Exactly. It's not worth his life at all. So why should he have to die for that?
Take his life if he gets in their way.
So we shouldn't. So that's why I don't want it to happen, because people have given significance to this, but it affects people who it means nothing to. So people are so selfish in their own belief that they're willing for other people to die because you feel some kind of way about this place. If that happens, then only the people who care about it should have to fight it. But that's not the world we live in. We live in a world where people are fighting wars who don't really care about what they're fighting this war for. You know, when I went to Saudi Arabia, the first they was like, oh, he got weapons of mass destruction. He got weapons of mass destruction. An argument that I was having on our way over there was none of his missiles can make it to America. So why do I give a shit that he got weapons of mass destructions? You see what I'm saying? It can't blow up my family. So we coming over here to fight this man for what he might do to somebody else near him. That was dumb. And then when I finally get there and we realized, I realized early on why we was actually there. It was over money and control, money, oil, and control. I was like, we fighting for rich people pockets. That's it. This is about rich people pockets. So it was bullshit. All them Iraqi soldiers were down there doing that because Saddam Hussein was broke after fighting the Iraqis for so damn long. So they attacked Kuwait to take all their precious material. It wasn't about getting a port. He didn't care about getting a port. He cared about, because when we got there to Kuwait, they had looted all the precious stones reserve and precious metal reserves had all been looted and all been taken back to Baghdad. And all the real fighting soldiers, the majority of the fighting soldiers were gone by the time we got there. So it was like, this was a bank robbery. Had nothing to do with no damn weapons of mass destruction. And then, of course, we found out that he didn't have any. Just like this whole Iranian thing right now. Them people ain't building a nuclear missile.
Yeah.
This is about money.
The previous Ayatollah used to say that, these nukes are actually haram. I don't know what the current one thinks.
Mm-hmm. These nukes are actually haram? What does that mean?
He released a fatwa, right? Like a religious statement of like the doctrine. And then he declared that, nuclear weapons are against Islamic values.
Oh, did he?
It's a sin for Muslims to even think about making them.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. You can search it up, like Ayatollah says nukes fatwa, whatever.
But you see how narratives are created to galvanize people to do shit that if they told the truth, you wouldn't do it. Right? And I thankfully you're in Kenya and not in America. Because right now, a large portion of Americans get told bullshit by our current regime, and they just eat it up and accept it as truth and don't even research it to find out whether or not what's being said is true or not. So be glad you're in Kenya.
In Kenya we have similar things, but then like the current younger generation are kind of like a bit more woke, right? To like whatever BS the government's saying.
Well, that's good because it's going to take getting these old fuckers out. I'm a little pissed at my generation. My generation didn't take up government office like previous generations and the younger generation is doing. Because we got caught in this middle trap and just surviving became more difficult for us. You may not know, but so I grew up with parents who said, get the job, work for the job for 30, 40 years, get your retirement, your pension, and you good to go. That way, and you can serve your country and that sort of thing. Well, in the middle of us becoming adults, all the pensions and the retirements and the company loyalties went away. So we found ourselves in our 30s, in our late 20s, and our 30s and 40s in a system that did not provide a safety net for us, made it more difficult to invest. They gave us this bullshit of a 401k that turns out that you still gonna be greeting people at Walmart when you're 85 years old. So our focus became, we got to take care of our families and take care of ourselves. So Gen X kind of missed our entry into public office for the most part, because the Gen X mentality we be calling all this bullshit on the carpet. Like we don't sit up here and just take it. But all them old fuckers who are in there right now, they just go ahead and go along with it. And a lot of the younger people, they're so afraid of losing their position that they won't fight against the bullshit that's going on right now. So I'm glad that your generation is starting to show signs of waking up. But our generation is the one who kind of fucked this up right now by not participating.
I mean, participating's where it starts, right? If you can participate, you can kind of like steer the ship away from the iceberg.
Yeah, you can. But like I said, when I came into the workforce, it was about getting your retirement, you're going to get your retirement so you can focus on what's going on in the world. But then all of a sudden they flipped all that shit upside down. You was working in management, middle management for 10 years, 10, 15 years for a company. And then all of a sudden the company fires everybody in middle management. They bring in the next generation. And now you're out here trying to figure this shit out. You ain't got any retirement. You're just now starting a 401k, and starting a 401k in your 30s and 40s is like, you got to dump so much into it to make it work for you that it don't even make sense, that you can't even live your life. And then inflation grows out of control. So yeah, we got fucked over. But that's no excuse for us sitting back and letting the government do what it's doing right now. Right? We still, because the world needs some Gen X mentality. Right? Because the Gen X mentality is, we ain't taking your bullshit and we ain't buying your bullshit. And we'll fuck you over if you keep on giving us your bullshit. And your generation is more peaceful.
No, in Kenya we're not. Like, we kind of had like our own, invasion of like Congress, but like it was over taxes.
Mm-hmm. Wait a minute, say that again.
And then I was saying that we like 2 years back, like the Gen Zs kind of just like went into Parliament, in the middle of like them trying to pass like a tax bill where they were gonna like increase taxes, but then cut social spending, cut like healthcare.
And that's good. Now that would be for us, Gen Z, because the millennials ain't doing shit either. So the Gen Z, they're the ones who are kind of showing some signs of standing up, but they're trying to be too nice about it. That's the only problem. Like, I kick some shit over. That's why I don't like. I've been offered to run for public office. Of course, it was at a time frame where I was transitioning from, oh shit, I've been working, but this shit is not going to be to my benefit. And I had to worry about my family instead. But if I would have ran for public office, I would have been the kind of guy that kicked shit over. I was just watching this this guy. He was asking the judicial committee, the people on the judicial committee, like, can the president run for 3 terms? More than 2 terms in America. And they were like, oh, I got to do more research and all this. And the guy was like, well, is anybody going to say he can't run for more than 3 terms? Because the 22nd Amendment says that he can't. And none of them would speak up. See, me, a Gen Xer, would have been like, y'all full of shit. The shit says verbatim that ye can't run. And y'all are such punks that you won't even speak up against this man because you're afraid of him. That is the example of tyranny. See, a Gen Xer would have called them out on that bullshit and made a big ruckus about it and called them names and don't give a damn. But the guy was just still trying to be all like, oh, I'm exhausted from trying to convince you guys to say something. Why won't this pleading bullshit? That's the part that we need, some cuss you out mentality in the world. And we recognize
how's that conversation even happening? Like, how do you get to a point where like somebody's even talking about 3 terms? Like,
because this motherfucker over here is trying to say that he want to run for a 3rd term, and he's trying to get people to support that so that he can force Congress to redo the 22nd Amendment, to like cancel the 22nd Amendment. And he's trying to get the courts so that then he can also get the courts to overturn the 22nd Amendment. So that's like a real issue in America. And that would be a terrible thing to happen in this country. I don't care if you're what side of the fence aisle you're on. Nobody needs to do more than 2 terms. And this guy's the poster child for we don't.
Are like diapers; they need to be changed frequently.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but Miss Divine, like, yeah, just my accent. Sorry, it sounds kind of Indian. I guess we do have Indians in Kenya and Eastern Africa.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna say that about that, but yeah, you sound like a Northern Indian. Yeah, you do somewhat sound.
Just because like how we pronounce our T's and R's is very similar to like Northern Indians.
But man, I'm about to get off this thing in a few minutes. So let me hit up some of these questions and statements that people made, and then I'm getting the hell off here. It is 4:26 my time. Oh, it's late your time. What time is it in Kenya?
It's about 12:30, 12:26.
Oh, I appreciate you staying up late with me.
It's okay. Thanks for like having me. It's been great.
My pleasure.
Let me try to keep it pushing.
All right, man.
And I'll go to sleep.
Go to sleep. All right. Thanks, Remy. You know what? The next time I come live, we're gonna have the same goddamn conversation because nobody came on here to. Remy was the only one who challenged the conversation points. I'm gonna do like Hadizi and Thinker. They'll have the same damn prompt for like a week or two. But we're gonna have it. Yes, I remember you, Goddess Divine. How can I forget a name like that? Yes, we're going to push this conversation. I want to have this conversation. I want them to be able to pick and choose which one of these things that they think actually is real. Ty, you said that you stood on the Euphrates River. You went to Desert Storm, the first one, or you went to the more recent ones? I'm just curious. Yeah, we Gen X, but we Gen Xers need to really step into government. Even right now, we need to step into government. And you were right, Dean. In their worldview, the third temple has to be built so that they can have their end times that they've been talking about for the last 2,000 years. That's why the Bible mind control and his world peace thing, they ain't gonna do it. Christians want the world on fire so that they can have their end times, when all they're really saying is that I'm sick of living. That's all they're saying. I'm sick of living. I want to go to heaven. And that's it. Okay, you 2023, 2024. Yeah, you youngin'. I went to the first Desert Storm there. I was back there, on the bush when we went to the Desert Storm. I had to get them my records out of, I was in Desert Storm. And then, mostly I was there for the cleanup, but, got there right at the end of Desert Storm. Had to go evacuate Liberia first. Yep, a return to common sense is definitely needed in this country. That's why we need to get this religion out of our system. And yes, those slave cities happened in the United States as well as Brazil. Brazil is just probably one of the most famous ones. Oh, you went in November 92. Oh, okay, so you was there. You shit, you would have been there when I was still there. Yeah. Wait a minute. No, and I think in 92 we wound up not going back over because didn't 92. Yeah, November 92, that's when Bosnia was going on. So we went to Bosnia instead of going back to and back to the Persian Gulf. So we wind up going to Bosnia in 92. Because then in 93, 92 through the first part of 93, we was in Bosnia. Yeah. Oh, he went to the army in 92. Gotcha. Thank you for your service. God is divine. First of all, God is divine. Let me tell you first thing. Unless I got a dishonorable discharge, do not call a military person ex-military. I am not, especially a Marine. The Army and Navy and the Air Force may accept that ex shit, but as a Marine, I am always a Marine. Now, your Navy Federal, Navy Federal is a beautiful bank, no doubt. But I can give you, I can give you my email. This LorenzoReed@gmail.com. And if you want to Zelle some money over to my Navy Federal account, we can do that. Look, I'm gonna be that guy. What's my ROI on sponsoring your Navy Federal account, girl? I'm a Gen Xer. We got to have some ROI for what we do. Shit, I need some ROI. My son tells me one of the best lessons that I ever taught him, the fact that if someone is not giving him a return on his investment, that he gonna stop investing. He learned that lesson, and I'm glad he learned that lesson. And see, I'll be contacting you in person. Not sure if you remember, I spoke with you for a hot second at Cigar International at Kicks and Stove. Okay, I talked to two people, Ty. Were you the guy I talked to? You was on your way out with your wife, or were you the guy who was standing at the bar? Not that it matters which one you were, but or were you the guy? No, you can't be the guy who was the other guy, because he could not have been born. He couldn't have went into the Army at 92. There was 3 people from the channel that I met at Stogies and Kicks at CI this past Saturday. At the bar. Okay. Yeah. Both of you and the other guy, I meant to say, hit me up on, in the little message thing and let me know when you're rolling out to see, we can meet up at CI when it's, for those of you who've never been to Stogies and Kicks, you are not going to have a conversation because the music is too damn loud. And there is, at any given moment, there's at least 500 to 600 people who are there. So it's crowded as hell. But any other time you can go to Stogies, you can go to CI and have an actual conversation, even though it's still not a true cigar lounge. I don't take IOUs, Goddess Divine. I don't take no IOUs. I don't take no IOUs. Yeah. And I don't take no quarterly returns either. My immediate transactions. Can't help a sister out. Brother just got to know how he gonna get helped out. That's all. That's all the brother need to know. I'm a businessman. Yeah, so Ty hit me up, DM me. Oh, what is that? What it's called? DMing? Is it still called that? I don't know. Instant message me, man. And we'll figure out a time to meet up at CI. But hey, it is 4:34. I got about an hour before my wife get home. Got a few things I need to take care of. I don't know if she want to go out for Cinco de Mayo. I don't think she does. But if she does, got to get my, I got to finish up some other work before she gets home. What platforms are you streaming on? Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. Oh shit, I was supposed to go to Navy Federal today. I hate doing the depositing a check with my phone. But I guess I'm gonna have to do it. Navy Federal told us to do an about face. Man, yes, because you gotta cultivate that relationship, man. Navy Federal is a great bank. The best. I've banked with probably 10 banks in my life, and Navy Federal has by far been the best one. Ain't had no problems getting the loans or nothing from them. The biggest problem I had with Navy Federal is when I travel, if you don't tell them where you're going, they will cut your damn card off until you verify where you at. Well, until you call them and tell them that, hey, I'm traveling. So anytime I travel somewhere, I call Navy Federal and say, I'm going to here. I will be passing through these states. So don't cut my shit off just because you see a transaction in these states. But I appreciate that. But yeah, so my schedule tomorrow right now, I think I should be able to go live tomorrow. I will certainly try. Yeah, I just definitely got to go to Navy Federal tomorrow. So I should be going live tomorrow. Yeah, there's nothing on my schedule. I know Friday I got an appointment, but we'll see. So I look forward to having a conversation with you guys. I'm going to try this conversation again tomorrow. I will actually want to talk about the subject matters. I want to get somebody on here to talk about this subject matter tomorrow. Because it's a good subject matter, but we didn't really get the conversations that I really wanted to have. So we're going to try this again. We're going to try this again. All right. God is divine. You funny, girl. Where you at? Where you located? Where you located? So I appreciate everybody for being here. I will be live way more often. I know I took that month and a half or so off, but you know, social media don't pay no bills. Well, they pay some, but they don't pay the bills. So we got to get that. Oh, you're in DC. Oh, I got another person in DC. She's on Facebook, I believe. No, she's on YouTube. Actually, I think if things stay the same way, no major changes, August, I should be in DC for a couple of days in August. I always tell people where I'm traveling if I have opportunities to meet up with people and, you know, press flesh. So if, press flesh means to shake hands before some of y'all get into y'all mindsets. But so anytime I travel, if I can meet up with people, if I have time to meet up with people, August, I'm supposed to do a cross-country road trip with my brother. We are riding from, well, I'll be leaving from Texas to Georgia, and then we're going from Atlanta through DC up to Maine and back. So if that's able to happen, depending on how these business things that I'm working on are going, August, I will be traveling on a motorcycle, cross-country motorcycle ride, and I'll let you guys know when that time comes up. And if we can meet, that would be awesome. I do not have them in different area codes. So anyway, look forward to talking to you guys hopefully tomorrow. Can't say exactly what time it'll be, but I will say, see, don't be trying to ask me questions right when I'm trying to get off. Ty, would you say the Torah or the Bible was a spin off the book Epic of Gilgamesh or the Emerald Tablets? Not so much the Emerald Tablets. I'm a little bit on the Emerald Tablets. Great information, great philosophy in some of the on the Emerald Tablets, all that worshiping and the 12 lords and all that kind of stuff. But some of the other philosophies, the 7 Hermetic laws that comes out of the Emerald Tablets, great. The validity of where it comes from, I'm going to say that the Emerald Tablets most likely were written after the Bible was written, but don't quote me on that. Don't go around saying that, well, Ren said that it was written after. It's most likely. I have a lot of information on that one. A lot of hidden, creepy information. I ain't gonna say creepy, not creepy, cryptic information on that one. But definitely the Epic of Gilgamesh had a major influence on the Torah, without a doubt. Without a doubt, the Epic of Gilgamesh had its impact, especially in the Genesis story. So it's going to be right in there. It's going to be right in there somewhere. Haile Selassie, yeah, Haile Selassie claims that he's from the lineage of Menelik, but hey, guess what? I'm from the lineage of Shaka, the great Zulu king, who the god of the Zulus guided Shaka in his journeys to become the great Zulu warrior and the Zulu king. And I am of that lineage. And I can prove that about as much as Haile Selassie can prove that he's from Menelik, meaning that it cannot be proven. He cannot prove it. He just made a claim. It's just like me and Remy was talking about. These people in power make claims to lineages, and y'all just suck it up. Yeah, suck it up. Because you want to feel important. You want to feel like you're connected to some divine authority. Haile Selassie was just a man, and that's it. And he was a man. He was smart. Smart. If I tell these people I'm from Menelik the first, even though I can't prove it, but I'm powerful enough to say it, and y'all believe it. Just like Hezekiah and them. Oh yeah, I'm from David. David was a great king, ruler. Yeah, and y'all just suck it up. Like, that sounds good. So whatever. Oh, Haile Selassie. Anyway, y'all have a great day. And always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations. And we're closing out the show right now.